Yeah, man. That's that old intro. Started bringing that back again. Get my audio check done, and we got some serious stuff to get into. So look at this. Dad wants to blow up. Hey, Dad, I'm embarrassing you right now. You're gonna blow up my phone as soon as I started a video. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take this call, even though I'm live right now and a whole bunch of people are listening to me. I'm gonna take this call. What's up? Okay, I'll holler at you later. All right. That's a first. Let's see. Sounds good. Excellent. Okay. So almost 7 years ago, I told you that I was going to bring you evidence of simulation theory from a totally different vantage point. There was already theoretical physicists. There's already people in the field that were bringing you their concepts and ideas and evidence that we're living in some type of mathematical construct in their own unique ways, using science, using the tools that were, the very fact that we're now in a computerized age. It's very easy to make the associations to virtual reality, to make all the connections, because we're heading in that direction now. We're already simulating, pseudo worlds in the gaming systems and stuff like that. Hell, Hollywood making movies is creating new worlds. So I wanted to have a very unique approach, and I wanted to show you that we're living in a simulation, and I wanted to do it using the historical record. Now, I'm already convinced that I've already done that overkill. A plethora of video presentations and books showing you the mathematical evidence of a falsified reality, an artificial construct that we're only fooled into believing is real. I've already made my case. However, that does not mean I don't come across new avenues of research that even blow my mind, and I'm ready to share them with you. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to have to wipe our minds absolutely clear of any of the baggage that we've brought into the idea of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. We need to remove Egypt from the equation. Zawi Hawass, Cheops, Khufu, 1837, Colonel Howard Weiss, the conspiracy, his accusations of Humphreys Brewer, that he put the cartouche in there. We need to remove all this BS because it doesn't even matter. If we are going to study something for what it is, we need to look at the language it is communicating to us. In not all these impositions, we can remove the Coptic accounts of the Great Pyramid. We can remove the imams, the literature of Islam, remove that bullshit from the field. All of the archaeological and historical hypotheses, they don't even qualify as theories, because no one's really addressing the language the Great Pyramid speaks in. This is what we're going to do. We're going to remove everything from the field, and we're going to process this gigantic, it's 454 feet tall. This thing is monolithic. It's huge. We're going to study this and look at it in the language that it's conveying. And the language itself is going to show us things that are amazing. That's what we're going to do. Now, there's all kinds of people that have also they've also brought some pretty compelling things into the field. You guys know I'm a critic to Graham Hancock. He gets all the credit, but he's just standing on the shoulders of giants, because in the 1800s it was already known and widely published, that the base perimeter compared to the height of the structure in squaring the circle provides pi, 3.14. Well, a physics constant is right there recorded in the dimensions of the Great Pyramid. This is something to pay attention to, but it's not the only one. The golden ratio has been found over and over in the Great Pyramid, especially in its exterior facial proportions. So a triangular cross-section of the face, called the Egyptian triangle or Kepler's triangle, explicitly shows us 1.618. But this isn't really mysterious. We've been knowing this for over a century. The general public learns it through popular people like Hancock and Andrew Collins, but all of this was already published over 100 years ago. It's a part of the language of the pyramid. Also found in the sloping angle of the Great Pyramid is Euler's number, 2.718. Marques's veterans already know that number is an anagram of a very mysterious number that in itself shows us that we're in a simulation. But we're not going to do that's not the subject matter of this video. So many people have shown us that the polar radius scaled to 43,200. The Great Pyramid scaled to a model of 43,200 is basically the Earth's polar radius. And we're talking about the height of the pyramid. These measurements, like I said, they have already been published over 100 years ago. It's the exact same thing with the equatorial circumference of the Earth, also scaled at that same model of 43,200. And you know, 432, that's a number. That's a very prominent number, divisible by 144 and 108. But the height and the perimeter of the Great Pyramid provide these proportions, and this has been widely known. But again, its geometry and its measurements basically encode physics constants. And this is a key component. So we have we have a lot of people that have published and drawn attention to the fact that the pyramid's latitude, its latitude at 29.979 degrees north latitude is actually, and it encodes the speed of light. So that's really interesting, considering the fact that the Greenwich meridian and the longitudinal latitudinal system wasn't invented till, a couple thousand years after the pyramids were made. And that's what I'm going to introduce here. The Great Pyramid was measured out in a system that would have been perfectly understood today, but not in ancient times. It was measured out using modern units of measurement. And this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to a mind trained to think that the trajectory of history has always been linear. But once we understand that history is cyclical, we can actually see through studying the measurements of the Great Pyramid that this structure had to have been laid out at a future time. Now, this is hard to process, but you're going to see the evidence here. This structure had to have been laid out at a future time, when the future was the past. And it has remained for 5,000 years still, just waiting for us to study it. But we are closer today, in the year 2026, we are closer today to the building of the Great Pyramid of Egypt than the people were 5,000 years ago when it was built. You probably can't process that right now, but you haven't got to the end of this video yet either. This is where we're going. Extremely precise cardinal alignments, despite everything our world has gone through in all kinds of systemic resets. The Great Pyramid is still aligned perfectly with north, south, east, and west. It's literally screaming at 454 feet high on the middle of a plain, 30 degrees north latitude. It is literally screaming, look at me, pay attention to me, and study me. So that's my intro, guys. I'm about to get straight into it. I hadn't even looked at the chat. Oh man, thank you, Knock, NZ, JZ, appreciate it. Just now saw the chat. And this coffee's so good, and it's so good. Yeah, man, this is gonna be crazy. So many people got theories about the Great Pyramid. I'm just tired of hearing them. I'm tired of hearing them, because in order to push those theories, everything you're about to see in this video here has to be ignored. Yeah, I don't care about the engineering fact. I know there's some people think it is a chemical factory. All that's good, because in the past, I have given you presentations where I laid out the data where I explained to you guys that a benefactor designed the Great Pyramid for a very specific function, but the benefactor knew that something in the construct was watching, and he had to convince the actual engineers and architects that they were building something else, and it's the only way the construction was ever finished. Because had the overseers, watchers, whatever, actually known what its true function was, they would have never allowed it. This is why they introduced a bullshit psyop story into the historical record called the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Confusion. It is a veiled threat to humanity. If you ever attempt to build another structure like this again, we're going to do you in. That's what the whole Tower of Babel story is about. It's a veiled threat from overseers watching humans build something, when the humans realized that they could actually build something inside the construct that would breach it. What was the Tower of Babel built to do? Invade heaven. Yeah, man, every bit of it's there. The veiled thread is there. So the original Babel story wasn't even in Babylon. That's where it became super popular, because of the Amorites. When the Amorites, called the Amuru, invaded that area during the reign of Amraphel, they raised Amraphel up, and he became known historically as Hammurabi the lawgiver. But he was of the 5th dynasty of Babylon, the Amorite dynasty, and he drew his power from the Amuru, the Westerners. When the Westerners came in, they brought the flood story, they brought the Tower of Babel story, they brought all kinds of pre-flood traditions. The Amuru brought all this is a whole syllabus, and then from Babylon they exported the syllabus, which later became most of the more popular elements of the Old Testament. So this where Sargon of Akkad was the son of a priestess who had got impregnated by a god, and she put the little baby Sargon in a basket and put him on the river. And yeah, it's the whole Moses story. But I digress. So the Great Pyramid was the subject matter of my very first published book in 2006, Lost Scriptures of Giza, where I laid out the whole history of the Great Pyramid. I laid out what it was functionally made to do, how it was built before a cataclysm, how it recorded the past, the present, and the future. And I cited all the worldwide traditions about the Great Pyramid that said it did just that it was like a time capsule recording data about the past, about the present, and about the future. This isn't Jason making this stuff up. It's all published. All the citations are there for you to see. It is one of the oldest and most profound stories of the ancient world. It was believed to be covered in writings on its casing blocks and all kinds of divine information about it. But the Great Pyramid itself was the original. It was the alpha construct. After the cataclysm, civilizations remembered the traditions, and they remembered how important the pyramid was. So what did they do after the cataclysm? They started building pyramids in their own little cultural, artistic ways all over the world, and pyramid building just took off. But nothing is like the Great Pyramid in Egypt, as I've shown in other presentations and in my books. People don't even know what a pyramid is. They think a giant artificial mountain in Mexico, because it has twice the volume of the Great Pyramid, is equal to the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and it's not, as I've explained previously. These gigantic monuments that people claim are pyramids are not pyramids. The Great Pyramid in Egypt is 203 levels of precise engineered blocks going all the way up to the top, with very precise ascending and descending passages, shafts, chamber systems that are very unique. Nothing in the world replicates the interior arrangements of the Great Pyramid. All other pyramids in the world have descending passages that go to a subterranean chamber, and some of them even replicate the well shaft underneath the pyramid. But no pyramids in the world have an ascending passage coming off the descending one that goes into a queen's chamber, a grand gallery, an antechamber, a king's chamber. None of that. Awesome shafts. Nothing in the world is even comparable. Great Pyramid stands alone. And all these other gigantic structures, like the ones in Mexico, are 4 in 5 previous pyramids that have all collapsed in on themselves. And they have been built over with rubble and faced with facing blocks to look very good and look very impressive. But archaeologists will tell you there isn't a single pyramid in the world anywhere near the size of the Giza pyramid, the Great Pyramid. Nowhere near the size that's a true pyramid. They're just mounds of rubble that have been faced to make them look like they're impressive, but they're not. It's not even a comparison. The engineering, the 5,000-year-old engineering of the Great Pyramid still stands alone today. I'm going to show it to you. Archaics veterans, do not think for a second that you're not going to see some new material in here that's going to blow your mind. This is not a rehash. I'm going to start with some older material to catch people up and to remind you of what we found in the past. But I'm going to end this with some truth bombs about the Great Pyramid. It's going to blow your mind. So, yeah, people talk about the Serbian pyramids. Jason, what do you think about the Serbian pyramids? There aren't pyramids. Anybody can terraform. Anybody can take a natural granite outcrop or a mountain and then spends 5,000, 6,000 men sitting there working for 20 years, and they can chip it all the way down to where it's vaguely shaped like a pyramid. That's terraforming has been going on for a long time. It's not a pyramid. Pyramid is engineering. So I'm going to open up this first file, get right to it. We're going straight into this because I'm telling you, when you remove away everything that you've been programmed to believe and you just assess the facts are going to paint a story. They're going to paint a story that is so incredibly a mind fuck that you're going to be shocked into paying attention. This is the story of the Great Pyramid, and it has nothing to do with anything that you have ever read in a book about Egypt. Let's get into it. All right. File number 1. I'm banking on this being about a 3-hour video. So I'm not in a hurry to show all this. Yeah, hit that like button. I never ask y'all to do that. Hi, Lacey. Oh, OG Face Diver. He's back with his old name. I can't keep up with all your handles, bro. All right. Sharing my screen. Man, this is going to be so badass. So the engineering of the Great Pyramid is functionally precise. There's nothing like it in the world. So this is the entrance where it says entrance right here. This was the entrance. I'm going to show you other pictures where the trap door was. For thousands of years, nobody even knew where the entrance was. It's such a cleverly concealed door. This is where the casing stones went. This is the descending passage. The descending passage goes all the way down here to a subterranean level with a subterranean passage with a bottomless pit. They call it the bottomless pit right here underneath it. This is the ascending passage. We have the intersect between two planes right here at this conjunct. it's going to become very obvious to you. They have two different functions. Here is the ascending passage, the granite plugs, the grand gallery. There isn't any other structure in the entire world, in any other building in the world that matches the grand gallery. The grand gallery is an enigma, because I'm going to show you in the pictures there. Here's the Queen's chamber, the air shafts, the antechamber with the granite leaf. And here's the King's chamber with the Davidson relieving chambers at the top. These megaliths up here actually deflected the immense amount of weight from higher up in the structure. So this is just an illustration, but it shows you how absolutely precise this structure is. This is solid masonry, 2.5 million blocks. That's what a pyramid is. A pyramid is not a hill that you put stone facing on to make it look like a pyramid. No, it's not four temples that have collapsed on each other and you put a bunch of brick on top of those and then turn around and level that out, but with a lime and a cement, and then you put facing blocks on that, and then you put steps on it and you call it a pyramid. That's not a pyramid. All you did was dress up a mound. This is a pyramid. It is very precise technolithic engineering. These are old illustrations just showing this structure has been studied for centuries. And they figured out what it was in the 1860s. In the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, they figured it out. Intuition is the predecessor of knowledge. These men published books. They know exactly what the pyramid was, what was designed to do, but they were totally ignored by the establishment, and they were suppressed because no one at that time would ever understand the concepts attached to being in cyclical history, a cyclical timeline, simulation theory, virtual reality, 3D printing. None of these concepts were known. They weren't understood and processed in the late 1800s. So these men who figured out what this is were all dismissed. Now, very precise engineering. I'm just going through this file fast to show you this isn't easy. Every bit of this required immense amount of pre-planning. There are people who even agree that the measurements and the tolerances are so precise in the Great Pyramid that it's almost as if it had to have been mapped out first by a computer program, an architectural program, maybe even AI, had to have designed this first. And as I'm going to show you, the self-referencing measurements in the Great Pyramid are so astonishing. There aren't any structures built in the last 5,000 years that can even compare to what I'm about to show you in this video. Nothing. Nothing compares to these. They're not just very precise measurements. They are self-referencing and self-referencing in other dimensions of arithmetic. New shit. You're going to see some new shit, guys. So this is just showing more and more the how intensely the Great Pyramid has been studied. It has been studied. This is the antechamber right here. This is most of the men who drew all these illustrations, who did all this very precise mathematical analysis of the Great Pyramid. Most of these men are unknown to people today. Most people have never heard of John Taylor from the 1860s, Robert Menzies in the 1870s. They didn't heard of Charles Piazzi Smith's Astronomer Royal for Scotland. They don't know anything about Sir Flinders Petrie. They don't know his scientific measurements. They've never heard of Adam Rutherford or engineer David Davidson or the researcher H. Aldersmith. They've never heard these names. But these are the pioneers. These are the men who figured out what in the hell this is, and every single one of them were ignored. This is a grand gallery. Look at the track system. Look at the track system right here. These are all equidistant, meaning there's a reason why they're equidistant. You don't do technolithic. When I say technolithic, I'm talking about tolerances and angles that are absolutely perfect. Like they were machined that way. You have to understand, you're looking at something where the staircase and the rail system in the middle was added recently so humans could walk up and down this very steep grand gallery. But the only thing this grand gallery had was that deep track in the middle and the track ruts on the side, as if a wheeled geared mechanism went up and down the grand gallery. Here's a cross section of the grand gallery. Look how specific this is. Like I said, I'm not really getting into the engineering today. I'm just showing you because we're getting into the measurements. Here it is again. You don't build something like that and it doesn't have a machine value, a machine function. This is way too specific. We got some people in the chat who've been up and down there. They don't draw attention. As a matter of fact, there were some people who sent me some pictures from the Grand Gallery recently. They covered these tracks up with decorations, Egyptian stuff. It was like a tarp that went all the way up the Grand Gallery so you couldn't see those track marks. I got the photos from it. Thank you, Goran. I love coffee. Okay. Here's an older picture when the staircase was not put there yet. These are old pictures of see, they're trying to figure it out. Look, even 12 centuries ago, Al-Mamun, the Caliph of Baghdad, and his men were trying to figure out, what is this? The Grand Gallery didn't make any sense. It has no antecedents anywhere in the ancient world. It's like, what is this thing? There's a Grand Gallery again. They chipped these in. Those are not original to the Grand Gallery. They chipped those in so they could climb, so they can get up there. This is what the Grand Gallery might have looked like as they were building the pyramid, and more levels. More and more levels were added. Great Pyramid. Here's the King's Chamber. Again, here's Queen's Chamber. I'm just going through these just to show you, because the engineering is not what I don't care, man. Don't give me any warnings about coffee. I don't care. Yeah, I take too many supplements and vitamins. I eat good, and I got the oversoul on my side. I can deal with some poison called coffee. Anyway, this is very precise. Doesn't even make any sense. This is not a funerary building for a damned pharaoh. It is the stupidest idea, period. Just dumb. You got to remove all that crap from your mind when you're analyzing this structure. It has nothing to do with Egypt. It has nothing to do. No bodies have ever been found. No coffins. No funerary stuff. Nothing of Egyptian provenance has ever been found in here until 1837, when Colonel Howard Weiss put it in there, and it's been a controversy ever since. Some stupid little cartouches and effigies. It's just dumb. Can't even believe people still push that as factual. So dumb. Look at this. You see how precise this is? Do you know, if you don't get, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're on the 26th level of blocks. If every single course of blocks, every level of gigantic multi-ton blocks isn't laser perfect, do you know the 27th level is not going to fit right? Then the 28th is going to be out of, yeah, you're not even going to make it to the top. Every single level of the Great Pyramid, which covers many acres, every single level has to be precise for the next level to be precise, for the level above that to be precise. It is so mind-boggling. Those who don't understand the principles of engineering are never really going to get the full magnitude of what I'm describing. If you've done stonework or machine work or mill work or any type of construction, you understand tolerances and why this is a most impossible structure. It is so impossible that ancient architects used to tell stories that they thought that it was built from the top down because it just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. A Japanese company tried to build a pyramid 1/10 the scale, and they couldn't get the levels right. They gave up. 1/10 the scale, and they gave up. With modern machinery, modern everything, they just couldn't do it. Yeah, man. Look at this precision. I'm just going through this fast. No sense. Some of these are repeats. Yeah. All right, we're done with that. We are done with that, I think. Oh no, those are the repeated sections. Let me go back into that file because there is some really good engineering picks starting right here. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of messed up. Let me go back in there and do that again. I didn't realize those repeats were in there, but I'm past them now. Yeah, okay. So this is what it looks like. Those are the shafts, the ascendant passage, descending passage. Look at that. This is not. Yeah. If I ever get in front of a crowd of people talking about this precise engineering and it comes out of my mouth that, oh yeah, this right here was built to convey a pharaoh's spirit into the afterworld, I need somebody to cold cock slap the shit out of me. That is the stupidest idea in the world. But then again, that's academia. Academia is about they've pretty much boxed themselves in at this point. Grand Gallery. That level of precision has nothing to do with burying anybody. It's dumb. This level of precision, a granite locking system in the antechamber, which is going to have something to do with different pressures. Some of the pieces are missing, but it doesn't matter. We can figure it out. Here it is right here. Here's the small entrance on the bottom from the Grand Gallery going into the antechamber. Here's the lock system going a small entrance going into the King's Chamber. Here's the entry. We're going to be talking about the entry. I'm going to be showing you many amazing measurements coming off this entrance. Here's a cross section of the antechamber. There's the King's Chamber. Look at this precision. Do you see the different compositions of stone here? This is limestone. It's 126 inches. This one giant block. The facing of this block, where you see my cursor, that facing right there is the prime meridian of the entire Great Pyramid. It is the central axis that divides the Great Pyramid in half. It is perfectly even with that plane right there. It's called the Great Step Axis. In this block, the first block is a single 126-inch block, followed right here by 408 inches of granite. It's granite blocks, 408 inches all the way to the King's Chamber wall. We'll be getting into that. Again, all this precision. Well, first of all, for those of you who don't know why these are shaped this way, this is for compression. It is an immense amount of weight pushing down on the King's Chamber. They didn't want the King's Chamber to collapse. So they built these megalithic relieving chambers that disperse the weight from directly above to the sides. That's what these are. That's why they're shaped this way. Look at that engineering. Looking at that cross section. Look at the original entrance to the Great Pyramid. With the casing blocks in place, you'd have never known that was there. And the beauty about it is it took almost no pressure to open it because it's counterbalanced. I did a whole video on this passage right here. This is the passage they blocked up. Thank you, Grange. Oh, Grand. Oh. Simple tubes bent. I'm going to put that on there. What is this? My business law professor claimed he knew how the Egyptians got their levels correct. Dr. John Adamson claims they used simple tubes bent in an arc, used water levels at either end to get the levels exactly straight. I'll be damned. I'll be damned. So I do have a video presentation called, I think it's called Antiquitech. So Antiquitech's in the title, but it's about this passage, which was deliberately hidden from the public. This is the chevron entrance you see, not the passage. Those big chevrons in the front of the pyramid that you see, they open up to a little tiny tunnel, which is right here. But they cemented the entrance. We don't know what's in this tunnel. They cemented that. The entrance that you see is way down here. This is the one everybody. That's the entrance to the descending passage. But there is another entrance above the descending passage that goes straight to the Queen's chamber. It's the 20th course right here. Anyway, we'll move on. That's another cross section. Just again showing you how precise this was. The precision. Look at this. Look at this right here. Look at the geometry. The reason I'm being like overkill on the engineering is because we're about to get into the measurements, and that's where all the magic happens. Look at this. So precise. So precise. That's so crazy. Even though the passage itself is 37.2 inches vertical, that's the height from the floor to the deal. The sloping distance right here from the bottom of the passage to the corner of the axis conjunct between the ascending and descending passage is exactly 60 inches. Look at that. 60 inches. Oh, shit. I'm about to show y'all some stuff. Again, just showing you how precise. 203 courses going all the way up to the top. These are the original granite plugs the Muslims couldn't get out of the way, so they just tunneled around them. Caliph al-Mamun from Baghdad. That's the passage conjunct between the descending and the ascending. That's the Grand Gallery again. That's the Queen's chamber. I put this symbol in here. I drew this because this is the path of the unknown tunnel. The tunnel that's been hidden. This is it right here. All right. So we're done. We are done with the first file. How'd that happen? How did that happen? All right. And Jamie Robbins said, the first question I ever asked Jason was, did he know where the missing mechanism was that ran up and down on the tracks within the Great Pyramid? And my answer to him was, it's going to be inside the Great Pyramid. If something is so important that it was disassembled and hidden in the structure, disassembled and hidden for future posterity, then it was going to be hidden in the structure, and the hiding place is going to be somewhere that's going to be geometrically located. If it's that important, it's not going to be removed from the structure. It's still going to be there. All right. Oh, man. All right, let's move. Share my screen again. Now, from the inception of my published research and all my charts that are dated 2004 to 2010, all my pyramid charts showing all the timelines and all that, it's I have never deviated from the scientifically accepted and the Egyptologically accepted measurements of Egyptologist Sir Flinders Petrie, who measured them to a hundredths of an inch using a micrometer. These measurements all throughout the pyramid have never been contested by science, have never been contested by Egyptologists. They are actually confirmed by Zawi Hawass. Everybody confirms that these are the measurements of all the architectural features in the Great Pyramid, and these measurements were all done by Sir Flinders Petrie. He spent a few years there. These are sloping distances, vertical distances, horizontal distances from each feature from every other feature in the structure. These are the only measurements that I have ever used. I do not borrow any measurements from John Taylor, from Charles Piazzi Smith, Adam Rutherford, from David Davidson. I don't borrow anybody's. I go only by the scientific measurements that were done by Sir Flinders Petrie, verified by other Egyptologists, accepted by the scientific community, and accepted today even by Zawi Hawass. These are the only measurements I've ever gone by. And using these measurements are going to blow your mind, what we see. These are generally accepted as the most accurate measurements that have ever been done inside and outside the Great Pyramid. Here's looking at the Great Pyramid from the sky. Here's an aerial view. These are all measurements. Yeah, I can't blow this up too big. These are all measurements right here, all the way for each course. Every course, all 203 courses, how many inches each one was. What's really interesting about this is there's four cornerstones. There's four cornerstones, and the cornerstones encode the fine structure constant. They are measured at 137 point something inches, and it always deviates point something, but it's never 138. It's the fine structure constant. All these measurements here, absolutely precise measurements. This is the key. There's the great step, 126 inches. Here's the granite floor. These are the verticals, horizontals of the king's chamber, the antechamber. All these measurements right here. It's a lot of measurements, guys, back and forth. I don't deviate from any of them. These are the only measurements I've gone by in all my published books, in hundreds of videos. Every time we're talking about the Great Pyramid, I'm showing measurements. These are the only ones I've ever gone by because Sir Flinders Petrie's measurements are the only ones that are accepted. Again, here's Petrie's measurements for all the verticals in the Great Pyramid. These are all vertical. These are all vertical measurements. We're going to return to this. We're going to return to this here in a little while. These are all the horizontals. I'm showing you all this because there's no way humans design this without using a computer or AI. There's no way. Because it's self-referencing not only in the actual measurements, but it's self-referencing even in other dimensions of arithmetic. There's no way. There's just no way. These are the horizontal and vertical measure. No, these are just the horizontal measurements in the subterranean chamber. This is the subterranean chamber. This is the subterranean tunnel terminus. This is the subterranean well pit. It continues to go down. Today it's full of water. This is the descending passage and where it terminates right here. There's the 126-inch limestone block, and the face of that block serves as the central axis to the entire structure. That is the center of the entire Great Pyramid, splitting the pyramid in half. Really interesting thing here. So the width of the king's chamber is 17 feet. Exactly. The width of the queen's chamber is 17 feet. Exactly. And there is 17 feet exactly between the central axis of the entire pyramid, where the great step is, and the axis to this pit at the very bottom, the well pit. So the well pit axis, an imaginary line going through the middle of the well pit axis is exactly set off 17 feet from the Great Pyramid's central axis that bifurcates the entire structure. 17 feet is 204 inches. All right, we're done with that file. Moving on to the next one. Moving on up. So this is going to be a file that's familiar to some of you, but but you need to pay attention, because this is all going somewhere. These are actual measurements in the Great Pyramid. We're doing away with any preconceived notions, anything that we have been told about the Great Pyramid, and we're just studying it for whatever mathematical messages that emerge. So, right here, we have a Fibonacci number, which is a part of the golden proportion. It is the 144th course of blocks. It's the 144th layer of blocks, which happens to start exactly at 4,140 inches. 4140, as you know, is divisible by 138. At the very bottom of the Great Pyramid is the subterranean chamber. The east-west axis width of the subterranean chamber is exactly 552 inches. Again, that's divisible by 138. Do you see this 1656? This 1656 right here, you see it right here in dark. It is exactly 1656 inches from the base foundation of the Great Pyramid to the base foundation to the king's chamber. From foundation to foundation is 1656 inches. It is exactly 12 times 138. But the step that it touches is 34 inches high. There's the 34 inches right there. And the 1656 inches actually begins to descend 1,070 inches to the ceiling of the descending passage. The subterranean chamber. So the 1656 vertical added to the 34-inch vertical of the height of the slab itself, to the 1070-inch vertical below the foundation to the ceiling of the subterranean chamber, is exactly 2760 inches. 2,760 inches is divisible by 138. The ceiling that the 1070 inches touches, the east-west axis, is exactly 552 inches, for a total of 3,312 inches. 3,312 inches is divisible by 138. But we're not done. You need to remember. I'm going to share my screen now. Share my screen again. So just that simple measurement right there shows that all these measurements in the Great Pyramid are screaming the number 138. When we get to the number 3,312, there's nothing in the Great Pyramid that shows us a 3,312, rectilinear measurement. We only get to it by compounding it. But when we get to it, one of the other dimensions of arithmetic that the Great Pyramid wants you to study it in is phi, the golden proportion, 1.618. So the Great Pyramid, using the Phoenix numbers of 138 and in another dimension of arithmetic, wants you to study them in phi, gives us the date 2046. This would mean absolutely nothing to anybody who doesn't know anything about archaics, but anybody following archaics absolutely understands this date. And because the Great Pyramid is always self-referencing, you can take it to the bank that this isn't the first time by far. I mean, this isn't the last time by far that you're going to see this number in this presentation. 2046 right there in another dimension of arithmetic. All right, so let's go back to our chart. All right, now, so we're done with that one. So we get to the bottom when we see that width, 552 inch width, that's 138 times 4. We get over here and we got a different one. We have the vertical distance from foundation to foundation of 1656 inches. 1656 inches plus the 1070-inch vertical all the way to the bottom to the ceiling of the subterranean chamber right here. Now we add the full horizontal length of the subterranean level. The subterranean level from the terminus to the passage conjunct right here is 1,414 inches. Adding 1,414 inches to the 1070 and 1656 gives us exactly 4,140 inches. Remember, the 4,140th inch was the golden proportion number of 144. It's the 144th level of blocks. It's self-referencing. Also, 4,140 is perfectly divisible by 138. So there's going to come a point in time when you're going to have to wrestle with the fact that how many coincidences does it take for it not to be a coincidence anymore? We're just now getting started. So we just saw that one. So the height of the Great Pyramid, the geometrical height of the Great Pyramid, if the 204th course was added, it would be exactly 5,814 inches. It's easy to ascertain. Geometricians can easily do it. They know the apophthegm. They know the sloping angle, 51.50 degrees. It's very easy to see. Even though the Great Pyramid today is 5,448 inches high, it's actually 5,814 inches high if it was finished and the capstone was in place. So 5,814 plus the distance right here of the King's Chamber foundation, this whole huge slab of blocks is 534 inches from the central axis of the pyramid to the King's Chamber wall. It's 534 inches. Adding that 534 inches to the height of the Great Pyramid, so we have one horizontal distance of importance and one vertical distance of importance, is exactly 6,348. Why is that important? 6,348 is important because it is the Phoenix timeline of 138-year periods leading all the way to 2040, as I'm about to show you. I'm going to show you a whole chart. Also, we have the vertical height here from the foundation of the pyramid, 846 inches, to the foundation of the tunnel of the Queen's Chamber. The Queen's Chamber right here is 804 of the pyramid. So adding that 486 to the height, geometrical height of the pyramid, 5814 inches, provides us the number 4968. Neither number is divisible by 138, but when you add them together, 4,968 is 138 times 36. It's the same way as the other one. 5814 and 534, neither one of them are divisible by 138, but when you add them together, they're divisible by 138. So 63, 48 years. I have to go back and forth to show you guys so you don't miss anything. I have to go back and forth. Can't have you thinking we're not doing this right. I need to find that chart. There it is. Share my screen again. You just saw the Great Pyramid's vertical height plus the 534 distance of the most important foundation, the King's Chamber Foundation. It is exactly 6,348 inches. We're not talking about centimeters. We're not talking about any other unit of Egyptian cubits, none of that. We are talking about standard inches, 6,348. What is this? This is 6,000. This was drawn years ago. This is 6,348 of Phoenix visitations to May 2040. The 6,348th year is 2040, which is what we're waiting on right now. Here's the timeline that shows that 6,348 years. This chart here shows which Phoenix visitations were worldwide and which ones were hemispheric. It's an old chart. All right, let's go back to where we were. Because I can't remember. All right, there we are. I found it. Trying to get through this Phoenix stuff fast because it's not even the point. It's not even the point of this video. This is really a recap. Here's another one. Well, you just saw that one, so let's go here. There's the 534. That one's so crazy too. Remember, the Great Pyramid was believed to be the sum of all weights and measures. What are weights and measures? They're constants. So the belief about them in the ancient world is the same belief that many people are having today. But look at the slab here, the King's Chamber slab, 534 inches long. What does 534 inches become in another dimension of arithmetic? Well, I'll show you. I will show you. Because it's pretty compelling. Again, I got to remove that. Oh, this StreamYard should have an easier way for me to go from image to image. Holy shit. All right, stop screen. Share my screen. Because I have multiple files open, it won't let me jump from file to file. So 534 inches in another dimension of arithmetic, the one that the Great Pyramid speaks in, phi, is right here. 534 times 1.618 is 864.0. It's perfect. What was 864? Those of you who have followed my published books and my presentations, 864 is the foundation of time number. Remember, all of our minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, they're equally divisible in denominations of 864, 864 seconds, 864 minutes, 8,640 seconds, 8,640 minutes, 86,400 seconds. Remember the charts that I've published on this number? It is mind-blowing. It's like the origin of the Sumerian sexagesimal system. 864 is the foundation of time number. It is 108 times 8. It is 144 times 6. It's got all kinds of base denominators that are fantastic. But 864 is foundation of time number. I've shown you in my published books how it relates to Stonehenge and many other different ancient monuments. 864 is almost like it's the unifying principle in seconds, minutes, days, hours, months, and years. That's it. 864. And where is it located? Oh man, where is it located? Let me show you again. The foundation of time. That's what that number means. It is the foundation of time. Where is it located? You just saw it. That's where it's located. The Great Pyramid is telling you that the great step, which is the very end, the great step, the central perimeter to the king's chamber wall right here is 534 inches. In another dimension of arithmetic, it is 864. The meaning of 864 is foundation. The concept attached is foundation of time. So the pyramid is now conveying a very different message than what Egyptologists are conveying. It's a very different message. This is foundation of time number. Move to the next one. So, okay, I'm on the wrong slide. Let me get rid of this slide. Let's go here. There we go. All right, so there's your 1656. You know, from foundation of the pyramid to foundation of time, right here, we have 1656. How interesting. That's so interesting because the 1656th year of the ancient world was 2239 BC. It was the Great Flood. It's when time started all over. It was a total reset, systemic reset, which means that the very first year of the foundation of time would have been 3895 BC. How do we know? It's very simple. You take 2239 BC, which was the 1656 year, and you add 1656 years to it. You get 3895 BC. So, this isn't something we're going to be talking about here. We've already got many videos and published books about how you put the chronology together. But it's right here, self-referenced in the Great Pyramid, 1656. From the foundation, 3895 BC, 1656 years to the foundation of time, we have the pre-flood world, which ended in the 1656th year with the flood, which started mankind's descent through timelines all the way down here. What were all those ridges in the Grand Gallery coming off the Great Flood? They were different civilizations fractured off of a parent civilization. They all went their own way. They all went their own timelines. What are timelines? They're calendars. Pay attention. I'm going to show you some mind-blowing shit about calendars recorded in the pyramid. All right. So, from this little axis, this is the descending passage. This is the ascending passage. This is the central axis conjunct between the two passage systems, one going down and one beginning to go up. So at that central axis conjunct, going all the way to the floor terminus at the bottom of the descending passage is exactly 3,036 inches. Man, you can't even make this shit up. It's exactly 3,036 inches. It is so perfectly self-referencing. The reason I'm saying it's self-referencing is because look at this. Look where it's at. Do you see where my cursor is? That is the dotted line right there for the central axis that begins this 3,036 inch descent all the way to the subterranean level. That dotted line is actually 1,518 inches all the way to the pyramid's terminus. There's the terminus, the perimeter corner of the Great Pyramid itself is exactly 1,518 inches. Why is this mind-blowing? Because 1518 plus 1518 is 3,036. It's self-referencing. This is a sloping distance. This is a horizontal distance. This horizontal distance times 2 equals the sloping distance going down here. It's the exact same distance. And further self-referencing is the fact that both 1518 and 3,036, both numbers are divisible by 138. No one in the world is talking about this. None of this is random. "534-inch great slab foundation for the king's chamber, and the 846-inch height of the queen's chamber floor to the foundation of the pyramid added together. We have the horizontal distance of the great slab of the king's chamber added to the vertical height of the queen's chamber floor. 534 plus 846 is 1380. Doesn't take a mathematician to know that 1380 is 138 times 10. Here's another good one. These are all the measurements of the entry. So there's the entrance to the pyramid where my little hand is. 1,110 inches to the passage axis conjunct, which is 176 inches above the Great Pyramid's baseline. The Great Pyramid's baseline is precisely 666 inches to the entry of the pyramid, vertical distance. But that entrance has another measurement. That other measurement is an apothegm, 808 sloping. It's a sloping angle. It's a sloping distance. It's 808 inches. It's much longer, but it goes to the same terminus. Both begin on the foundation, on the ground, but one timeline is very short and one timeline is longer because it's going at an angle. When you add these four numbers that make this geometrical shape at the entry of the Great Pyramid, when you add those four, you get 2760. 2,760 is 552 times 5. It is 2760 is divisible by 138. Now, when you take that 2760 and you add it to this 3,336 inches going all the way to the descending passage, you get 5796. 5796, Annus Mundi, is the year 1902. But you can shelve that. It's not even important right now. The importance of 1902 will come out later when it becomes overwhelmingly obvious what the message of the pyramid is. So this is the longest passage in the entire pyramid. This is the longest passage in the entire pyramid, the descending passage. The descending passage has an uneven floor terminus right here at the bottom. This has been noted and published in several books. On one side, it's 4,134 inches. On the other side, it's 4,146 inches. So on one side of the tunnel, it's 6 inches short. On the other side, it's 6 inches too far. So the mean between the two is exactly 4,140 inches, which is perfectly divisible by 138. But the variant distances are not an accident. They're a part of the design. Here's another incredible deal. So the central axis of the entire pyramid, which is the face of the Great Step, the center of the entire pyramid is exactly 4,554 inches to the terminus. There's the outer perimeter. The outer perimeter of the Great Pyramid to the center of the pyramid, 4,554, which is self-referencing. It's 1518 times 3. Where did you see 1518 before? Here's 1518 inches from this axis to the terminus. And this perimeter, this perimeter all the way to this axis is 1518 times 3. Where'd you see 1518? It's right here. 3036 is 1518 plus 1518. In many, many ways, the seemingly random. You have to understand, in all books in Egyptology, all these measurements are presented as random. Do you see randomness here? It's ridiculous. Look at this. You saw this is the descending passage is 3,036 inches from this axis to the bottom axis. Look at this. The grand gallery distance, the ceiling distance is 1,836 inches. From the top to the bottom, the sloping distance is 1,836 inches. But the grand gallery ceiling terminates exactly 1,200 inches above the pyramid's baseline. When you add the two together, 1,836, ceiling and ceiling height, you get 3,036 inches, 138 times 22. Do you think this is random? Is it coincidental? Here's another one. So 1518, we've already seen this horizontal distance from the perimeter to the passage axis conjunct, 1,518 inches, plus the 1,110 inches to the conjunct from the entrance, plus the fact that 176 is how many inches high that the passage axis conjunct lies. The entrance is 666 vertical inches from the pyramid baseline. And again, from the perimeter of the pyramid to the entrance where all these measurements started is 808 apophthegm inches. When you add all these together, you have 4,278. 4,278 is divisible by 138. But we're not done. You saw that number 176 down there? Let me show you a curious fact about that number. Let me show you a real curious little fact about that number. Oh yeah, this is going to get good. $176. You can't make this shit up. 176 inches above the pyramid's baseline is where that measurement was. But when you take 176 and you multiply it by pi, 3.14, you get exactly 552. The Great Pyramid is self-referencing even in other dimensions of arithmetic. 552 is 134, is 138 times 4. We'll get rid of that. And let's get back to our regularly scheduled screen. Where was I at? Which one was I showing now? Is that it? No. Oh, there we go. Here's the next one. Everything's just it's all so self-referencing. So here's the 3,036 inches from the floor joint to the axis right here. This is 3,036 inches. 3,036, as we know, is divisible by 138, but it's also 506 inches times 6. So it's 506 inches times 6, which is really interesting because look, that's the exact distance from the floor joint here where that measurement ends. It's 506 more inches to this imaginary axis line in the dead center of the well pit. It would have taken a computer to design this, guys. That's where I'm going. It would have this structure was built 5,000 years ago, but it would have taken a computer to have done this to this precision. Now, here's some more interesting things. Here's the king's chamber. So we have 340. Oh, okay. So from the height of the grand gallery to the great step is 340 inches. The great step is limestone. It's not like the granite that goes all the way into the king's chamber. The great step is limestone and it's 126 inches. But the great step is the key to the structure. It too is self-referencing. I'm going to show you another amazing parallel here in a minute. So the 340 inches to the height of the grand gallery added to the 126 horizontal length of just the limestone granite, the key block that's at the central axis of the monument, the 34-inch height of the block from the floor of the grand gallery to the surface of the block, and the 52-inch horizontal length of the entrance going along the block. That's 52 inches right there. When you add all four of these numbers together, you get 552. We already know, we're already beyond the point of this being accidental. But even more so, I've already told you that the Great Pyramid is 203 levels of blocks, but it's designed to be much higher. So this is one of the most important aspects, the Great Step limestone block. It is 126 inches long. Let's see what happens to 126 in another dimension of arithmetic. Let me share that one. So in another dimension of arithmetic, this is what your 126-inch entry to the king's chamber becomes. Tell me, do you think that's an accident? I'm looking for an amen in the chat, just something. Pamela said, nope. All right, so let's get rid of that one. Or Let's go with remove that. Stop screen, and now share screen. Go back to the chart I had. So yeah, that's that chart there. Go to the next chart. There we have our 1656 vertical going down. We've already talked about that. In this one, we have the King's Chamber right here is 230 inches in height from the Great Slab Foundation to the ceiling is 230 inches. 230-inch height of the King's Chamber plus the 126 great step, which is required to even get into the King's Chamber, right here, multiplied by each other, 230 inches times 126 inches is a space of 28,980 square inches, or 4140 times 7. It's divisible by 138, or it's 414 times 70. It's too precise. I'm not claiming that I know what it means. I'm claiming that it's way too precise. 204-inch width of the King's Chamber and the 230 height of the King's Chamber. What does it produce? That'd be the next one. I don't remember. I don't see what that had anything referencing. Was that down here or something? Did I miss something? Oh, 412. I didn't see that. 412 inches in length. That's how long the King's Chamber is. 412 inches in length, 204 in width, 230. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's 19,331,040 cubic inches, or 552 times 35,020. All right. Yeah, it's just too precise. So here's something, the subterranean chamber. Here's the subterranean chamber. The width of the east-west axis of the ceiling is 552 inches. But the whole height of the chamber is 11 and a half feet. It's published that the subterranean chamber, the ceiling is 11 and a half feet high. Well, anybody can look at 11 and a half feet and see that it's 138 inches. It's crazy. So subterranean level is 1,414 inches horizontal, the length, but it's 1,070 inches deep underneath the pyramid. Adding just those two numbers, we get Aristarchus's number for the cycle of destruction, 2484 years, which is divisible by 138. Remember Aristarchus? The world is destroyed every 2484 years. Here's 2484, divisible by 138, found in two measurements of the pyramid. Adding 552, which is the ceiling of the subterranean chamber, we are given the length of the descending passage that leads to the subterranean level, which is 3,036. Can't make this shit up. It was all designed to be self-referencing. Even the full length of the subterranean chamber, the subterranean level is 1,414 inches, which also is self-referencing. Why? Because that is 1,000 plus 414. What is 414? 138 times 3. But it's just a coincidence. So here we have the subterranean tunnel that leads into the subterranean chamber is exactly 1,162 inches below the pyramid's foundation. The distance from the axis, the central pit of the subterranean chamber, the distance to the terminus right here. A dead-end tunnel, nobody knows what it was for. but the distance to this dead-end tunnel is 908 inches to the axis that goes below the pyramid, a deep bottomless pit. 908 horizontal inches added to the depth of the tunnel leading into the well pit of 1162 gives us 2070. 2070 is precisely divisible by 138. How is this possible? Adding the east-west ceiling distance, we have 552 inches. Adding the 138 height of the subterranean chamber, 11 and a half feet, we have the number 2760 again, derived in a totally different way. Again, divisible by 138. So the beginning and the end of this 534, remember I showed you the foundation of time? 534 in another dimension of arithmetic, phi is 864. So the beginning and the end, the alpha and omega of the foundation of time is the 204 inches of the king's chamber and the 204 inches between the two axes. The central axis of the whole Great Pyramid and the axis that goes all the way to the well pit on the very bottom. These two axes, the well pit and the pyramid central axis, are exactly 204 inches apart. That's 17 feet. When the pyramid is totally complete, the foundation of time pyramid is done, it will have 204 levels. All right, we already saw this. It's 1,518 inches that way to the pyramid. We saw this too. This is 1656 vertical. We've already talked about this. This is the mean. I threw some extra charts in there. Really didn't need to have them in there. There's 2070 again. There's 2760 again. That's the width, 552. There's your 3036 again. All right, I think we finished that chart. Yeah, so there's the height. This is the height with the cornerstone in place, 5,814 inches high. That's the finished height. This is 534 inches long, the great slab, the foundation of time slab, added to the height of the Great Pyramid when it's complete is exactly 6348. What was 6348? It's the exact amount of years in the Phoenix timeline leading up to May of 2040. So we're done with that file. Is this all coincidence? Listen, I'm not going to toot my own horn. I'm not more intelligent than other people out there. But I'm going to have to bring this to your attention. Either I'm uncovering something that is real. And these are not coincidences. And they're self-referencing. Either I have just shown you evidence, and I'm not done, I got a lot more. But either I just showed you evidence of a self-referencing measurements encoded all throughout the rectilinear dimensions of the Great Pyramid, not only in our dimension of just normal arithmetic, but in other dimensions of arithmetic too. There are references. Either I am showing you something that is very real, or I am the greatest manipulative genius this world has ever seen. You got to pick one. There is no in between. None of those measurements are mine. They were all made 120 years ago with a micrometer by a scientist named Sir Flinders Petrie, who was sent by the Royal Society to oppose all those who were making false claims about the Great Pyramid being a calendar in stone. You guys didn't know that, did you? The Royal Society was fed up with all these books coming out in the 1800s talking about the Great Pyramid was a calendar of the future and the past. So they sent a giant, a mathematician, an astronomer, a scientist. They sent a giant in his fields to Egypt to smash all that theory. and his name was Sir Flinders William Petrie. And the measurements that he produced for the world are still scientifically accepted. And I just gave you those measurements and showed you what those measurements do. And we're not done. I got some profound shit to drop on you. But you got to make a decision. Are you seeing something that is absolutely factual in the Great Pyramids, rectilinear measurements? What I'm showing you, is it real? Or am I the most sinister, evil genius this world has ever seen? There's no in between. I'm either a liar, and if I'm a liar, then I'm using all these scientifically verifiable facts to produce that lie. Or am I just an ordinary guy who loves to read, has a passion for arithmetic, and I just happen to notice something? The Great Pyramid screams at us to pay attention to it. And so far, it's been screaming that, hey, you better pay attention to the number 138. So, moving on. Well, like I said, I got some profound. That was still back history. You guys have seen a lot of this stuff already. I haven't dropped the new shit on you yet. Now, yeah, man, it's just it's dude, it's a mind fuck. It is, man. Because what I just showed you, let me get to it. Yeah, let me get right to it. What did I show you? Because if you were to put all the measurements of the Great Pyramid into a synthetic timeline, you're looking at the Phoenix history. Here it is right here. You're looking at the Phoenix history. 3895 BC, right there. 2239 BC, the Great Flood. Ogygian Deluge, 1687 BC. The sinking of Atlantis, 1135 BC, right there. 583 BC, the sun darkens, stopping the battle between the leads and the Medians. 31 BC, Sky Dragon over Egypt, Battle of Actium, terrible earthquakes, Olympia, Jerusalem is destroyed. Yeah, man. 522 AD, Vapor Canopy returns, the Dark Ages return. Look at this big old black square here. That's Nemesis X and Phoenix at the same time. Yeah, 1212 AD right there on the Phoenix timeline. That is the beginning of Tartaria. All the way up 1764 right there. Astronomer Hoffman and 500,000 Europeans see a dark object darken the sun. Wasn't the moon. He was a member of the Royal Society too. 1902. I got many videos on 1902. It's the best kept secret in history. Most people have no idea all the shit that happened to our world in 1902. And then the next year, which is going to be on a magnitude far worse than 1902, is 2040. This is what the Great Pyramid shows. This is exactly what the Great Pyramid shows. Here's a different way of looking at the exact same timeline. This is 1656 years, 552 years, 1656 years, 552 years, 1656 years. Yeah, 2040 is the last Phoenix stop before 2178. Man, that's what you just saw in the rectilinear dimensions of the Great Pyramid. But we're going to move away from that. I just wanted to hammer in. Is this a coincidence? Because what I'm going to show you now, you're still going to have to make that choice. Is Jason showing us some real shit? Or is he the most sinister, evil genius this world has ever seen? Because everything I'm showing you is verifiable. It's all factual. So did I take a whole bunch of facts to create a fiction? That's up for you to decide. All right, we're closing that file. Man, it's thundering bad outside. I got a backup power, but I don't know how long it'll last. Okay, so we're gonna get into some juicy now. That's what Martin Leakey says. Juicy. Okay. Oh man. I want you to see. What do we got first? What do we have first? right. So I'm going to show you on screen this before I show you charts. That's how important this is. I don't know how many of you got your chronicons out, but this is a good time because everything I'm saying is verifiable. This is chronicon. This is chronicon. This is 1,055 pages of world history as a mathematical construct, citing all the sources, 41 ancient and modern calendars, all synthesized into one timeline. And this is it right here. And I've never deviated. None of my published materials, no videos on YouTube, 1,200 videos, have I ever deviated from this. I don't need to. Once you got the history of the world down pat, you can see easily that we're inside a mathematical construct, because that shit can't be real. It could not have happened that way. Now, let me show you my screen, because everything I'm about to show you are measurements inside the Great Pyramid. Oh, I gotta find them. Now I gotta find the measurements. Hold on just a second. Okay, now I know what I need to do. I went to the wrong file. That's what it is. Let me get this back out. Mr. Petrie. Let me go find Mr. Petrie's stuff. So we got one here. All right, I'm gonna put you aside because I might have to go back and forth. And I got you here. I'm gonna put you aside. Perfect. Now we got to figure out which one we're gonna use first. So oh my God. It's just too much. It's too much. Go back to this chart. Y'all bear with me. I got so many charts. So, okay, we'll start with this one. We shall start with this one. Share screen. We're going to start with that one. Didn't want to, but we'll do it. So let me show you what you're looking at. Let me tell you what you're looking at. Using the measurements of the Great Pyramid, just the measurements, if the foundation of time, which is right here, which we've talked about it right here, if we're going to go with the foundation of time right here, this was the foundation of time, great slab coming out the king's chamber. So we're going to start at the beginning of the 534 inches. Foundation of time, 3373 BC. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that date is? That is the scholarly accepted and widely published date for the beginning of the ancient Olmec timeline. The Olmecs were the ones that later developed what became known as the Mayan long count calendar. 3373 BC would be year one, which counts down 408 years right here to 2965 BC. 408 years is the granite. That's the granite part before the limestone, 126 inches, ends the 534-inch slab. So 408 years after 3373 BC was the year 2965, which according to the biblical chronology was the year 930 Annus Mundi. 2965 is when Adam died. And according to the Talmud in the book of Jasher, the sun darkened, which we know of as a phoenix phenomenon, not an eclipse. It is phoenix phenomenon. So 126 years later, the limestone block ends the 534 years of this timeline. Well, it doesn't end it, but it's the 534th year of the timeline, which happens to be 2839 BC. 2839 BC is, according to the biblical narrative, the year Noah was born. It is the introduction of a new race. It's on the 600-year Anunnaki-Ner chronology, which started in 5239 BC. So this is a bridge between the Olmec system and the Anunnaki-Ner system of 600-year periods. But look where it goes. 3,360 inches down this entire timeline to the year 522 AD. 522 AD, when two different planes collided. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you've been watching Archaics for even 90 days, you already know 522, the Nemesis plane and the Phoenix plane and the Terrasphere all came into contact. Massive tertiary field. This is when two planes collided, and it started a 300-year Dark Ages period, 522 AD. 522 AD was the last time the world had been really, really effed off. It's had a reset again in the 1000s, but nothing like what happened in 522 AD. In 522 AD counts down exactly 1,518 inches, aka years, to 2040. Now we're starting to see that the foundation of time actually meant calendars, not inches. Inches are just a unit of measurement. Kind of blows your mind, though. Inches, why inches? We'll get to that. You can't. Is this a coincidence? Is it a total coincidence that 3373 BC is the beginning of the Olmec calendar, according to scholars? Is it a total coincidence that in the Genesis narrative, Adam died in the 930th year? Look in Chronicon. The 930th year, according to biblical chronologist Stephen Jones, also is 2965 BC, and the sun darkens. Is it a coincidence that 534th year of the Olmec system was when Noah was born? I didn't make up Noah's birth. His birth was 2839 BC by totally other systems of analysis. But in this, it's the 534th year. Is that a coincidence too? That from Noah's introduction, Noah represents a new race introduced into the construct before the flood. The new race's timeline got hit hard in 522 AD. 522 AD, that new race was fragmented into a whole bunch of kingdoms. 522 AD began 1518 inches or years to 2040. Conceptually, what's going to happen that's similar to what happened in the past? Well, 2040 is probably going to start another timeline, but 2040 is connected to the vapor canopy of 522 AD. 2040 is also connected to the death of Adam in 2965 BC because the sun darkened, according to the narrative attached to Adam's death. So, what's going to happen in 2040? The sun will turn black as sackcloth of air. The moon will turn blood red as the stars will fall from the sky like untimely figs. That's in the eschatology. So, all these coincidences, did I make this up? Totally different way of looking at it right here. It's a totally different way. Here's the entrance to the Great Pyramid. There's the entry right there. That's how you get in the construct. What is the Great Pyramid? It is a construction. It is a structure. We're talking about timelines measured in rectilinear dimensions. We are talking about a construct. We enter the construct 2965 when the sun darkens. Adam died. What does Adam represent? An older version of the race. Adam dies. 2965, it begins a new timeline. That timeline goes 1,110 inches or years to 1855 BC. What's 1855 BC? Come on, Chrononauts. I know I got some cipher-nauts and chrononauts here. What was 1855 BC? I'm going to wait for somebody to say it. What is 1855 BC in Chronicon? It's not an arbitrary year. There's no way I could have made this up. 1855 BC. Nemesis X visited in 1855 BC. Even more so, 1855 BC in our calendar is the year 2040 Annus Mundi. Two calendars going in two different directions synthesized right here. Is it a coincidence? Am I an evil genius, or am I just dropping chronological facts that are easily verifiable? 1855 BC, climbing up through history, 3,360 years. We get to the great step, the foundation of time, which counts down 534 years to 2040 AD. You can't make this shit up. You can do the math yourself. 2965 BC minus 1,110 years is 1855 BC, which is Nemesis X visitation. 1855 BC, which is the year 2040 Annus Mundi, you just add 2040 to 3360 years. Then add 534 more years, which is the length of the foundation of time slab up here, and you'll get to 2040. 2040 is the year 5934 Annus Mundi. Can't make this up. Self-referencing again. How do you even process this? How do you even process this? The top surface of the foundation of time slab, not the bottom. The bottom is the flood date, 1656. The top is 1,700 inches. It's 1,700 inches to the top of the slab to the foundation underneath the pyramid. 1,700 inches. 1,700 inches plus 340 inch height of the Grand Gallery. Hold on, y'all seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah, right here is 2040. It's so simple, and it's simple, and it's done a few times, because that's not the only one. If you remember correctly, you have this one as well. This is the full length of the Grand Gallery ceiling. We just used the Grand Gallery ceiling, 340 inches, to get to 2040 by a different method of analysis. Here's another one, 1836-inch sloping distance added to the 204 inch wide width King's Chamber, which is on the foundation of time slab. You can't make this shit up. 204 plus 1836 is also 2040. It becomes self-referencing. Just can't make this shit up. So bizarre, so wild. So wild. So I got another one to show you. So the King's Chamber. So we've already seen that one. We have not seen that one. That's a good one. I don't know why I don't have a chart for that one. I never drew a chart for this one. So I'm just going to show you the basic, Sir Flinders Petrie's deal, because once you see that, you get it. Never drew a chart for that one. So let's go here and get that, and let's get that. Cool. All right. Man, I got so many things open. All right, so the first thing I'm going to show you right here, you need to see this before, real quick. Right here, do you see the 666 vertical distance to the entrance of the pyramid to the base of the structure? Then you see the 176 right here that we talked about earlier. You can see both of those clearly right here. All right. Now we get to, oh man, so hard going from screen to screen. All right. Now you see this one. Okay. You see the apple thumb of 808 inches. I should have drew a chart for this one. This is so badass. You see the apple thumb right here of 808 inches. You see the sloping distance of 1,110 inches right here. We've already talked about the 1,518 vertical inches from the axis to the perimeter. Those are the only one. Oh, and the fact that the foundation, the perimeter itself, is exactly 1,656 inches below the foundation slab of the King's Chamber. So when you take all those and add them together, I'm going to show you what they look like. And then we'll be done with the Phoenix stuff, because Phoenix stuff is all just a reminder. We'll move on to the juicy. So when you take the 808-inch apple thumb plus the vertical height of 666 inches plus the sloping distance of the descending passage to the axis of 1,110 inches, which is 176 inches above the foundation of the pyramid, and the perimeter where you started with the 808, the perimeter to where you end 176 is 1,518 inches, which foundation of the pyramid being 1,656 inches below the foundation of time of the King's Chamber. Adding all of these together provides us the number 5934. That's 5,934 inches. 5934 Anno Mundi is exactly 2040 Anno Domini. In one calendar, the old world's calendar of Annus Mundi, Anno Mundi, it's 5934, which translates into our modern calendar as 2040 AD. Again, I mean, how do you process that? How do you process that? This is just this. How do you process that? We just looked at this chart. I should have read this to you. 2965 BC, Adam died and sun darkened. Phoenix phenomenon. 1,110 inches or years to 1855 BC when Nemesis X visited. 1855 BC is the year 2040 Anno Mundi. And the 3,360 plus 534 inches or years after is the year 5934 Anno Mundi, which is exactly 2040 Anno Domini. I should say Mundi. I can get confused too, guys. Now, this is forward and backward through the structure. Listen, forward and backward through the construct. We get the same 2040 date. Forward and backward through different calendars, we get the same 2040 date. Here's another one. 2909 BC. Do you know what happened on that date? 2909 BC? Enoch ascended, is gone. 2909 BC. Remember the traditions. Enoch ascended. What did he do? He left divine instructions. What did the Sethites do? They went to a place called Akuzan and they built an altar to Adam. They built a monument to God at Akuzan, which is Giza. So 2909 BC is 808 inches years to 2101 BC, or 1794 Anno Mundi, a Phoenix year on the 138-year chronology. Get your chronicons out if you don't believe me. You can verify it yourself. 1794 Anno Mundi is a Phoenix year. It is the year 2101 BC in our calendar. So 1794 AM plus 4,140 inches or years, this is the whole descending passage, is 5934 Anno Mundi, or the year 2040 Anno Domini. Here's a totally different way of finding 2040 again. Now, The Great Step Foundation is 1656 years or inches high, and it represents the date 2239 BC. Everybody knows this who's been listening to Chronicon. By now, I mean, if you've been listening to Archaics for more than 6 months or so, you already know that 2239 BC, the Great Flood, the Typhon Flood of the Phoenix, is also the year 1656 of a different calendar, a pre-flood calendar. So this is caused by the Phoenix. So descending vertical back to the foundation is 1656 inches or years to the year 3312. 3312 Anno Mundi, or 583 BC sun darkening by Phoenix. This is in the days of Miletus. This is the sun darkening that stopped the battle between the Medes and the Lydians. Going down another 1070 inches or years to the subterranean chamber ceiling, that's 1070 inches. All right, the subterranean level is 1,414 inches or years long. It's a horizontal distance I've showed you already to get us to 5796 Anno Mundi. That's adding all these together. 5796 Anno Mundi, or the year 1902 Anno Domini, the last Phoenix year. The subterranean chamber ceiling is exactly 11.5 feet high, which is 138 inches or years to 2040. Here's another totally different way of getting to the same year, 2040. So we're done with the Phoenix stuff. It's just a good reminder of the fact that too many coincidences exhibits no coincidence at all. That's what it does. Now, we just saw that number 12. And remember, we just saw that one of the measurements in there was 3312. Remember what happens to 3312 in another dimension of arithmetic, like this one. We just saw 3312 was one of the measurements. So 3312, when divided by the golden proportion of 1.618, becomes 2046.9. All right, now we can move on. Now we can move on. What we got here? So we have to address this before we move on. We have to address this too, because there isn't any explanation for what I'm about to show you. You're just gonna have to take it, chew it all up, spit out the bones. I believe that we live in a simulation, but you can process this any way you need to. Let me share my screen again. So, as we go through the measurements of the Great Pyramid, which screams at us to pay attention to the number 138, and for some reason, it's just a coincidence. And you guys know from my past presentation, I've shown way more calendrical alignments for the Great Pyramid than I just showed in this video. I've showed way more. I'm going to show more in this video here that you've never seen. But I'm just saying that there comes a point in time when you have to process what's being laid down. And what I'm telling you is I agree that the Great Pyramid was built 5,000 years ago. But I'm also going to agree that the Great Pyramid's measurements show me that it's screaming for us to pay attention to the number 138. But equally so, the Great Pyramid is literally speaking in the language of inches and feet. And that doesn't make sense to me. Now I'm out of my comfort zone, because too many coincidences exhibits no coincidence at all. I didn't make these measurements up. I stringently followed the scientific measurements of Sir Flinders Petrie. I didn't date any of these things. Everybody knows in my Chronicle, I cite the sources, I show mathematically how we get to all these dates. I didn't date any of these things. So superimposing the events of world history calendrically over the schematics of the Great Pyramid shows me that we're dealing with some type of planar mathematics that's dealing in two or more planes, giving us coordinates to events in the future and in the past. And it's doing it in feet and inches. Yeah. That great slab right there, that great slab right there that we've been talking about is 1,656 inches. Yeah, well, it's 138 feet. That is exactly 138 feet above the pyramid's foundation. The pyramid's foundation, the foundation of time, to the ceiling of the subterranean chamber, which is 552 inches wide, divisible by 138. This distance right here is 230 feet. 230 feet right here. And hold on, 230 feet. I should have put it on there somewhere. That's a huge distance. Yeah, I should have put that on there. 230 feet is 2760 feet, divisible by 138. Yeah, it's crazy. 2760 feet. So although in inches, from the baseline, this is 1070 inches, but in inches, this wasn't commensurate with 138 below the baseline to the ceiling. It was 1,070 inches. But when you add those 1,070 inches to those 1,656 inches, you get 230 feet, and 230 feet is divisible by 138. Here's the perimeter of the pyramid to the central axis of the pyramid. It is 379.5 feet. 379.5 times 12. 4,554 inches, divisible by 138. There's the 153 foot length of the Grand Gallery, and there's the 100-foot height of the bottom of the Grand Gallery. We already know it's divisible by 138. We saw it in an early chart in inches. This is the 1518. This is 126. That's how big this structure is. It's 126.5 feet from that axis between the passages and the perimeter of the pyramid, and 1518 is divisible by 138. From the same axis, but going the other direction to the floor joint at the bottom of the passage is 253 feet. It doesn't sound much, but it's 3,036 inches, which is divisible by 138. These distances are huge to keep so perfect. It is huge. All right. Here's the entire length of the descending passage. It says, note, descending passage terminus is unique in that one side measures 4134 inches, the other side 4146 inches, with the mean being exactly 4140 inches. That is divisible by 138. That's 345 feet. That's over a foot. That tunnel is over a football field long. It's crazy. Way over a football field long. Kept absolutely perfect and precise. It's crazy. Look at this. The exact same length, 345 feet. The exact same length we find here for the mean. The same length from the foundation, 345 feet high, which is divisible by 138, is exactly where you find the 144th course of blocks. 144. Foundation of time number is 144 times 6. Here's the subterranean chambers, 11 and a half feet high, right there. That's 138 inches. The subterranean chamber ceiling width is 46 feet. 46 feet. 46 feet is 552 inches. Guys, this was done 5,000 years ago. This is commensurate in feet and inches. The feet and inches both being referencing the Phoenix number of 138. Sometimes they reference it in inches, sometimes it's referenced in feet. The entire Great Pyramid, subterranean chamber entry to the back wall right here, 55.8 feet. That's 1,000. What was that? Subterranean entry to the back wall, 58.5 feet. I don't remember what that one was. I don't even remember what that was. Oh, 670 inches. Yeah, that's an interesting one because that's 670 inches, like the length of the seven kings of the Anunnaki before the flood. But 670 is a unique number because I believe 670 divided by 5. Yep, 414.0. Oh, I already got it. Yeah, I don't need to show it to you. I got it on this paper. That's why that's interesting, because in another dimension of arithmetic, that one pops off. Let me show it to you. I like to show things on here because I'm very well aware that some people when they're research, they're always screenshotting. And I'm cool with that. Here it is. Let me share my screen. Yeah, that distance in the subterranean chamber is a Phoenix number right there. It's exactly 670 inches, which is 670 years in the pre-flood world was when the Anuna seven kings ruled. It was 241,200 shars. But when you take the turnings of the stars, 241,200 times, and divide it by 360, how many days there were in a pre-flood year, you get exactly 670 years. So here is the end of the end of the Sumerian seven king timeline was the flood, the Typhon event caused by the Phoenix, which has a lot to do with why Nostradamus said that many will die before the Phoenix dies until 670. His reign will endure, something like that. Talking about reigning in the sky. But there it is, 670 divided by 5 is 414. 414 is 138 plus 138 plus 138. Just can't make this shit up. Just can't make this shit up, guys. You're gonna have to vote. Am I telling y'all the truth, or am I an evil genius that's able to take all these facts and turn it into a scenario that's believable? I mean, which one is it? Stop screen. Let's see. Where was I? Let me find those charts again. Okay, we're there. We did that one. Okay, I know where we are. Here we are. Share screen. Yeah, I'm only showing you these in feet and inches, and it doesn't make any sense because the feet and inches absolutely mirrors our calendars. And I'm going to prove it. I got a whole nother file where I'm just going to overwhelmingly prove it. Subterranean chamber level. The whole length of the subterranean chamber is 117.8 feet, which is exactly 1,414 inches. Again, self-referencing. It's 1,000 plus 414. I just told you 414 is 138 plus 138 plus 138. This is the subterranean chamber ceiling to pyramid foundation, 89.16 feet. And the subterranean chamber level length of 117.83 feet. Added together is exactly 207 feet. 207 feet is amazing because one, it's half of 414. And we just saw two other subterranean measurements that equaled 414 and in different dimensions of arithmetic. Now we have a third one that provides us 207 feet. 207 feet is half of 414 feet. But even more so, 207 is 2484 inches. It's 2484 inches, guys. That's divisible by 138. That is the number of Aristarchus. He said the world is destroyed every 2484 years. All right, this one. Total height of the pyramid with the capstone is 484.5 feet. That's this arrow here. Length of the Great Slab Chamber Foundation is 44.5 feet. That's 534 inches. Add them together, you have exactly 529 feet. So let's look at that. 529 times 12 is 6348. That's the entire Phoenix chronology from 4309 BC all the way to 2040. In feet and inches. And I already know you're going to have a lot of triggered people that research the Great Pyramid. You're going to have uniformitarians. You're going to have modern. You're going to have people that have an inability to process the depth and magnitude of this research. They're going to be triggered. They're going to say, "Oh, feet and inches, so stupid," and all that. It's good. Let them go. F them. F them. And we've got way too much research in archaics. There is no way anybody's going to overturn this thesis. But they can ignore it. They can gaslight you. They can say all kinds of shit. But anybody who attacks is going to have to, they're going to have to disentangle every single bit of it. Yeah. There's no way. I'm not smart enough to put all this shit together if it's not true. Yeah. It's crazy. Oh, man. Thank you, Third Space. Yeah. Wait till I get to the file where I'm dropping these bombs on you. This is just still feet and inches. This is all we're done with that file. Yeah, this is crazy, guys. It's amazing just processing all this. Oh, we're getting to a good file now. Oh, we're about to get to a badass file now. We're getting close to being done too. 2:15, excellent. 2 hours and 15 minutes. So here is a massive file. It's not big, it's just what it has in it it's jaw-dropping. There's no way. It's a mind fuck. It's like, what the hell? Let's get into it. Let's just get straight into it. All right. Man. So I'm going to have to show you. You're going to have to follow this on screen with a one of the charts. Let me. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna get one without all the measurements because it won't be so distracting. Let me find one real quick. I know I got a bunch of charts here that just show the internal arrangements. Cool. Here's one right here. We'll just use this one. We'll use this one. Perfect. Okay. This right here is so you won't get distracted. Let me move it out of the way. Yeah, this is some mind fuck shit here, man. All right. Every single one of these begins with us entering the construct. Where do you enter the construct? You enter at the entrance right here. Golly, man. So this thing is so sensitive. What the hell? All right, there we go. Here's the entrance. This has always been the entrance to the pyramid. Here it is, the entrance to the descending passage. Right here. This is the entrance. The Great Pyramid is a super construction. It is built in measurements that parallel the calendars and timelines of the world. Therefore, We enter this timeline through the entrance. We are entering the construct. Pay attention. Every one of these are from this one point. We start at this one point. So we're entering the construct in the year 3103 BC. Why did I choose that year? Because it's the beginning of the Vedic Kali Yuga calendar. Anybody who's ever done any type of reading knows that the Kali Yuga began in 3103. This is published in so many different books. We enter the construct at the start date of the Vedic Kali Yuga calendar, 3103, and we go 1,110 inches right here down this deal right here. You see it right here. You've seen it many, many times. You saw it many, many times in earlier in this video. This is 1,110 inches to this axis. That's where we're going. When we get to this axis, we jump up on this timeline and just continue as if nothing stopped. Just keep on going all the way up this right 3,360 inches that we've been seeing all the way up here to the Great Step, right there on the Great Step. From the Great Step, we already know it's 534 inches across, all the way from the Great Step all the way to the King's Chamber, the back wall of the King's Chamber. We have gone the full distance of this timeline. This timeline ends on this date, and it begins something else. So what is it? It's entering 3103 Kali Yuga. We add the 1,110 inches here to the 3,360 inches here to the 534 inches of the Great Step Foundation of Time deal. When you add all of those together, it's exactly 5,004 inches. When you take those 5,004 inches and you translate them to 5,004 years, 5,004 years after 3103 BC, start of the Kali Yuga, is exactly 1902. That's what this one does, but we're not done. We've already seen 1902 a couple times earlier. But what is the Great Pyramid trying to tell us? Remember, these are internal measurements. We haven't even got to the external ones yet that continue the message. So we go to the next one. Let's start at the beginning again. There's the entrance. This time, we are entering the construct, the space-time structure. We are entering the construct at the year of the flood, which began a whole new timeline. It's total systemic reset. The flood was 2239 BC in one calendar, our modern calendar. But in the old world's calendar, it was the year 1656. So we enter the construct right here. 1656 AM plus the 1,110 years right here. Then this is 1,546 years. We're not going all the way up. We're going all the way to the level of the Queen's Chamber floor. This is 1,546. Thank you, Complete Cycle. We're not going all the way up. We're going to right here, the Queen's Chamber entrance, which happens to be exactly 1,627 inches all the way. You see my little hand? All the way to the central axis of the entire pyramid right here. There's an imaginary dotted line that splits the Queen's Chamber in half and lines up perfectly with the Great Step right there. That imaginary line, 16, this is on those charts of Sir Flinders Petrie's measurements I showed you, 1,627 inches. So when we add all these up, We started at the Great Flood, 1656 Annus Mundi. We added 1,110 inches. We added 1,546 inches. Then we added 1,627 inches to get right here in the center of this Queen's chamber. The center of this Queen's chamber is the year 5939 Annus Mundi. 5939 Annus Mundi is in our calendar the year 2045. It is the last year of this timeline before 2046 begins a whole new time. Remember what Nostradamus says. I see 6 lenses in a telescope. I see heavy legends coming. I shall know different times. He's talking about the end, the apocalypse. I shall know different times. Nemesis X returns in 2046. What does it do? It changes the year from 365.24 days to 243 days. It changes the day from 24 hours to 16 hours. How do we know? Book of Revelation lays it out perfectly. Everything is reduced by a third. The sun, the moon, the stars, the day, and the night. Yeah, everything reduced to a third. Everything's reduced by a third. That means 66.6% is remaining. That's what stays behind. 66.6% of the night, of the day, of mankind. Yeah, even 1/3 of mankind is removed. It's a total systemic reset. But this is also what engineer David Davidson saw. So I have to show you that real quick because he also dated it 2025. He said 2025 is the final year of the Great Pyramids timeline. Let me show you what he did. This is mind blowing. Yeah, this is crazy here. All right, so share my screen again. This is 1924. Engineer David Davidson, having studied the Great Pyramid, didn't know anything about the Phoenix chronology. He didn't know anything about Chronicon. He didn't know anything about Dr. Stephen Jones, who hadn't even been born yet, who put together the whole chronology, which happens to match the Phoenix chronology. So he didn't know anything about these concepts. He didn't know anything about the Nemesis X. Nothing. He's just going by a mathematical and geometrical analysis of the Great Pyramid, and he determined in 1924 that the core message of the Great Pyramid is that time as we know it, which is the motion of the celestial bodies, is going to be completely altered in 2046. And 2045 is the last normal year. Here it is. Can't make this shit up, guys. Can't make this shit up. All right, let me get back to the other shit. All right, so I need to get back to this. Share screen. Now, okay. So you see, we enter the construct. We enter the construct first in 3103, which was the Vedic Kali Yuga. Then we entered the construct after that at the Great Flood. Each one of them began a new timeline. That's what the construct is showing right here. When I say construct here, I'm talking about the Great Pyramid. It's showing multiple timelines on 2 different planes. What are you looking at here? Descending plane, ascending plane. There's 2 different planes here. And every once in a while, there's an offshoot 3rd plane right here. So next one. Again, we're going to start at the entrance. We can never do a good eschatological analysis of the world by omitting one of the most misunderstood calendars in the world. You guys know that in 2011, I had a book published where I was telling the world, you guys got it all wrong. Nothing's going to happen in 2012. The only thing you can expect in 2012 is for 2013 to come around because you all got the math wrong on the Mayan long count. Nobody listened to me back then, but people are starting to listen to me now. the Mayan long count, all this BS about precession and agrarian uses and all that crap. It's all crap. The Mayan long count was a day count system. It is 1,872,000 turnings of the stars, days. That's it. It was subdivided into 13 Mayan epochs called Bactans. Each Bactan was 400 Mayan years of 360 days each. The Maya did not know a 365.25 day until way years later, and then they created a series of vague systems, but it has nothing to do with the core original Mayan long count. So the Mayan long count calendar, we're going to have to start with the Mayan long count calendar. Why? Because it's a timeline. Great Pyramid, what does it do? It's a construct. What is the construct made of? It's made of timelines, calendars. I told you guys 5 years ago on my channel that sooner or later you're going to come to understand what I mean, that we are confined within calendars. I said this 5 years ago. I still mean it today. Here it is right here. The entrance is 3113 BC. This is it. 3113 BC is when we enter the construct. This timeline began with the Mayan long count. So you can imagine a bunch of souls choosing to enter the construct when the gate opens. When the gate opens, it just happens to be the Mayan long count gate. The last time the gate opened, it was a great flood. A whole bunch of people died, so a bunch of new souls had to come in. All right. Well, the gate that opened before that and closed was Kali Yuga, the great darkness. So something terrible happened during the pre-flood world. A bunch of souls were allowed to come in. What is it? The gate opens. What is this? What was the Great Pyramid referred to over and over and over? It is the gate of Rostal. It is the gate of the soul's transport. So the gate opens. When the gate opens, the construct now starts a new timeline. Here it is. We're counting this timeline. This one is the timeline attached to the Mayan long count. It starts in 3113 BC. So let's follow it. Mayan long count starts 3113 BC. We're at the entrance. And what do? The entrance represents the year 782 Anno Mundi, because 782 Anno Mundi, the 782nd year of the pre-flood world, is when the Mayan long count began in 3113 BC. So 3113 BC, at the very end, the entrance is 666 vertical inches from the foundation of the pyramid, but it's also 1,110 inches to the axis, the central axis right here. So we have 1776 inches right there. 666 plus 1,110 is 1776 inches. We take that 1776 inches and we just keep going down. Keep going down this time. This time we didn't go ascend on plane. We're on a totally different plane of time reckoning. We go down this whole length to here. It's 3,036 more inches. When we get here, it's 346 inches to this wall, entering the subterranean chamber. That's the distance. And all we have to do is add it. When you take the number 782 Anno Mundi and you add 666 years plus 1,110 years plus 3,036 years plus 346 years, the full length of this journey from entering the construct here, going all the way down in a straight line here where it plateaus out before you enter this dark chamber underneath where there's a bottomless pit. This one journey, this one straight rectilinear timeline ends 5940 Anno Mundi, which translates to our calendar date of 2046. For those who have been following Archaics, do you see how profound this is? A totally independent rectilinear measurement produced the number 2046 in tandem with the number 3113 BC. But the Mayan long count itself ends in 2046, as I've shown many, many times. I got so many charts and videos about it. In my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, published in 2011, I even have 2 chapters showing how the Mayan long count ends, not in 2012, it ends in 2046. Because the Mesoamerican scholars in the 1950s made a mathematical error. They didn't take something very important into consideration in Mayan mathematics. And then turn around, the whole world copied them. The entire world copied the mistake. So, anyway, so profound to see that the Great Pyramid abbreviated. We didn't even have to add, we didn't have to count. We didn't even have to count the 1,872,000 days subdivided by 13 back into 400 years, each one of them being 144,000 days. When you count the individual days from 3113 BC under a 360-day system all the way to the year 713 BC when the year changed to 365.25 because something happened with the moon. The moon changed its course and the entire world was shocked. This is what Emanuel Velikovsky recorded. This is why the solar zodiac came into being. Everybody quit trusting the moon. The moon played false for 4 months. All lunar zodiacs, all lunar timekeeping systems, they had to abandon them. And what emerged in the ancient world after 713 BC were solar calendars and solar zodiacs. This is what happened. And the Maya adjusted there. The adjustment to the Mayan calendar is that now a year was 365.25 days, but it doesn't change the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar is fixed at 1,872,000 days and not a day more. How many days there are in a year doesn't change the duration of the Mayan long count. It changes what year it ends. It doesn't end in 2012. It ends in 2046. So that's our third demonstration of entering the construct. So let's enter the construct on a different timeline. How about let's enter the construct at I'm talking about a really profound individual, because in the traditions, he's the builder of the Great Pyramid. I didn't make that up. I cited all the ancient traditions that say it. Enoch was the architect of the Great Pyramid. Enoch was a chronologist. Enoch was a scholar, later made king, and then later he became emperor. But Enoch, in the biblical chronology, was born 3273 BC, which is the year 622 of the pre-flood world. Yeah, it's not just in Chronicon. But there are many, like Dr. Stephen Jones, who published his own biblical chronology and shows that Enoch was born 3273. The guy doesn't even like me. Yeah, he won't respond to my emails or anything. I've tried to blow him up because his chronology is so profound. But you know what? I don't care. It's anyway. Birth 3273. So we enter the construct. A whole bunch of souls enter the construct with Enoch. Man, we're going in. The gate opens and we go in. The entrance is 666 inches above the foundation of the pyramid. And we travel that same 1,110 years down this passage. So that's 1776 years total that we just traveled. Then we continue to travel the full length of the passage again, just like last time. We're going all the way down 3,036 more years to the floor terminus, to the floor joint. And the floor joint is exactly 506 inches or years to the central pit right here. It's another simple timeline. It starts with the birth of Enoch. When you add, now Enoch was born in 622, Anno Mundi, the 622nd year of the pre-flood world. Add 666 years to it, add 1,110 years to it, add 3,036 years to it, and add this final 506 years to it, and you get the year, or you get a total years of 5,318 years. But when you add it to Enoch's birth of 622, you get 5940. What happens in 5940? And what is it about the year 5940 that has something to do with something coming out of a pit? Enoch's ministry was for the last days. That's what we're told in all the texts. Enoch's ministry was not for his time period. That means his architecture, his chronology, his science, his prophecy wasn't for his time. It was for the last days. That's what the book of Enoch says. Everything Enoch did was for the last days. This timeline here ends in 5940. 5940 is the year 2046 AD in our calendar. What happens in the book of Revelation concerning a pit? You guys can answer that yourself. So that's another timeline involving Enoch. Enoch is the architect of the Great Pyramid. Enoch built the Great Pyramid for a last days generation to be able to ascertain where they are in time and what they can do about it. Because it's not just simply knowing. The Great Pyramid is like a puzzle. It has something that we need to figure out. It was so important that when Enoch originally designed the Great Pyramid, he had to put an engineering function in it in order to fool whatever was observing him that would have stopped him from being able to get this done. He even removed himself from the building project. It says Enoch ascended and he was with God and he walked with God and whatever. But the Great Pyramid complex didn't begin construction until he was already gone. It was the Sethites. The Sethites had the divine instructions and they carried on with the building. And that was the safest way to do it, because if Enoch would have been involved, sooner or later, it would have been given away to whatever, call it AIX, overseers, governor. I mean, if you want to get super religious about it, you could call it Lucifer, Satan, whoever wanted to keep man from understanding, one, that he's in a construct, and two, there's a way out. So, yeah, the Sethites were called Typhonians, and people used to sacrifice them when they caught them. They were hated. All right, so let's go to another one. We're gonna enter the construct again. This time we're gonna enter at an awesome time in the pre-flood world, a great celebratory time when Enoch was actually made emperor over 130 kingdoms before the flood. So the traditions say it was 130. Book of Jasher says it was 130 kings and princes. But the Coptic traditions say that it was 130 of the nomes of Egypt. So it's the same person. Enoch is Sarid. Even the Coptic Egyptian Christians believe that Enoch was Sarid. Sarid was the one that built the pyramids before the flood. So we're going to start with Enoch becoming emperor. The year, you can look in Chronicon, you can see how we got the year. The year was 3151 BC. In 3151 BC, Enoch became emperor over 130 kingdoms. This is before the construction of the Great Pyramid was even built. So I do have one of my moderators can find the video. I do have a video that the video is all about. It's in the title, like something about the 800 years before the building of the Great Pyramid. It's 800 years of pre-flood history and all the events that happened in pre-flood history before the Great Pyramid was even built. I have one video. It's a long video, but it's a badass video. It has a good chart on it for you to understand. I can't remember the actual title of the video. Some of you, I know Mr. C can probably find it. But I do have a video. Please put it in when you find it. But it's It's about the 800 years of world events that happened before the pyramid was even built. It's pre-flood. It's all pre-flood history. It might even be called World Before the Flood, the 800 years before Enoch or whatever. I can't remember. I got so many videos, guys. Okay, now, yes, OG face diaper. 1560 years of Etana is Enoch. 1560 years divided by 12 is exactly 130. You're right. Etana, Enoch, Suri, they're all the same person. Enki. Now, so we enter the construct in the year Enoch became an emperor. It is the 744th year before the flood. Pre-flood world. So the apothegm measurement from the perimeter down here all the way up, from the perimeter all the way up here to the entrance is 808 sloping inches. Then it's 1,110 sloping inches going down. But again, we're going to go all the way down. The whole 3,036 inches again. And down here at the bottom, do you see this little anteroom right here? Very curious little anteroom right here. No one really knows what its function is for, but it's exactly 302 inches. It's exactly 300 little room right here. It's like 302 inches. And that's where we're measuring to. When you add up that 808 inches to get to the entrance, and then the full length of the descending passage right here, and then the 302 to that little tiny room, it's not even a room. It's just where the tunnel just all of a sudden gets bigger, and then it goes back to normal size again. When we add all these up, we get exactly 5,256 inches. But if we count them as years and add them to hold on, I think it's 7. Hold on. I think I might have told y'all the wrong year. I'm always doing something weird. Hold on. It is 5,256. Yeah. When you add the 5,256 inches to 744, which is the year that Enoch became emperor, you have exactly 6,000, which, if translated into years, in our calendar, the 6,000th year is 2106 AD. You can't make this shit up. You just can't make it up. So now we have a reference to another visitation of Nemesis X. 2106 is a Nemesis X event, just like 2046. Remember, Nemesis X is 60 years. It'll appear in 2046, and then it will reappear and disappear in 2106. And for 58 centuries, for 58 centuries of human history, this is the model. Nemesis X affects us for 60 years. It's seen in the sky, and then it vanishes. It disappears for 732 years. By the time 732 years is gone, it's basically forgotten. Then when it reappears, it's a great monster in the sky. It does all kinds of fallout and all that. And then it's here for 60 years. And that 60-year period is where we got the Sumerian sexagesimal calendar. That's where we got the idea that the number 60 is attached to alligators and turtles and reptiles. But I digress. Those are other videos. So we entered the construct with Enoch before the flood becoming an emperor over basically a technologically advanced civilization. And Enoch was able to understand some profound things because he wanted to convey his messages in the very language that would be interpreted in the future. How did he know that? How did he know that feet and inches were going to be a standard of measurement in the future? It's mind-boggling. This is the stumbling block that's going to stop a lot of people from processing this data. They're not going to be able to even get to the point of, how many coincidences before it's not a coincidence? I mean, some people are never going to get to the part of actually processing these facts and data. They're not going to get past that stumbling block. Man, feet and inches is crazy. No way. Yeah, they're never going to be able to assess the facts. So let's enter the construct in another time. Let's go right back here to the entrance. And let's enter the construct in 3439 BC when Enki appears in a fleet of ships. 3439 BC, 1/3 of the entire human race is killed in flooding. Enki appears. This is the appearance of Enoch, same person. The appearance of Etana, same person. 3439 BC was a visitation of Nemesis X that killed 1/3 of the world's population. The gate to the construct opened and a bunch of souls came in. So we're going to pretend to be one of those souls. 3439 BC was the ancient world's year of 456 Anno Mundi. We are entering the construct. So this distance here from the perimeter, right? Well, from the perimeter right here, where you see, from the perimeter to the entrance, going all the way down right here. This is a horizontal distance between the perimeter and the entrance. Here's the entrance. There's the perimeter. That horizontal distance is exactly 524 inches. That 524 inches right there at that height is 808 inches on the apothegm, the sloping distance right here from the perimeter to deal. So we have two different measurements identifying the entrance. One of them is 808 inches straight right here as the ruler goes from the perimeter to the entrance, 808 inches. But it's 524 inches horizontal to the perimeter, which would be an invisible line vertical down. Two different measurements, same place, the entrance. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because this entrance is precisely 3,706 inches all the way over to here. All the way over to the central medium right here. Let's see, it's 3,700 inches from the descending passage terminus. Oh, I'm sorry. Descending passage terminus right here. The floor joint. All the way at the bottom of the descending passage, that's the floor joint. But it's not sloping inches, not this way. It's horizontal, meaning measured this way. These are horizontal inches on the bottom, not sloping that way. Sloping is longer. The horizontal you go vertically all the way down from here, and then it's 3,706 inches here. That's on the charts I showed you earlier. So the terminus, the floor joint down here, is also 506 inches to the well pit, the central axis of the pit. So 524 inches plus 808 inches plus 3,706 inches plus 506 inches is 5,544 inches. So we enter the construct with Enki, Enoch, Etana. We enter the Oannes. We enter the construct in 3439 BC, which is the year 456 AM. And we travel this whole distance to the well pit access, the subterranean chamber. 5,544 years is how long it takes us in this journey. 5,544 is precisely 792 times 7. So you guys know Nemesis X periodicity is 792 years. 732 years, it is gone. It's here for 60 years. The 60th year is the 792nd year of Nemesis X. So starting with 3439 BC, which is 456 Anno Mundi, and adding The years of our journey, 5,544 years, we get to the year exactly 6,000 Anno Mundi. The return of Nemesis X again in the year 2106 AD. How many times will we keep hitting 2106? So, in the human historical record, the very first appearance of Nemesis X, 3439 BC, which is the appearance of Enoch in the chronological record. This measurement in the Great Pyramid shows us the first appearance of Nemesis X and the last appearance of Nemesis X, which is 2106 AD, the year of the return of the chief cornerstone, when the Great Pyramid monument, which is the construct, will be complete. Let's move on. So I got a seventh one. Here's a seventh one right here. We're going to enter the construct a seventh time. This time, we're going to enter the construct in 2707 BC, which was a Nemesis X visitation. Yes, a bunch of people died. The gate of the construct opens and a bunch of souls pour in. 2707 BC was a visitation of Nemesis X. It is the year 1188 Anno Mundi, meaning it's the 1188th year of the pre-flood world. So the entrance here, as we said, is 666 vertical inches to the entrance. We travel 1,110 inches all the way to the axis conjunct right here. We continue our descent through the timeline all the way to the floor joint, which is another 3,036 years. When you add 666 inches to 1,110 inches plus 3,036 inches, you get 4,812 inches. Our journey of 4,812 inches that started in 2707 BC with the destruction of Nemesis X ends right here in the year 6,000 Anno Mundi. Again, the year 2106 AD. I better make sure that's correct. 4812 plus 1188. Oh, it's the year 6,000. Again, Nemesis X. So the pattern, what you're seeing all throughout the Great Pyramid, so crazy. It's just so, it's a mind fuck, man. Damn, so crazy. Now, what you're seeing all through the Great Pyramid, guys, all these measurements are in Phoenix numbers. When they're not, they're combined with other numbers that are not Phoenix numbers, and they become Phoenix numbers. Many of them become Phoenix numbers in other dimensions of arithmetic. And while Phoenix dates are often shown, as I've done in prior videos, I didn't want to do them in this video. I got so many different Phoenix events that can be shown in the pyramid. I didn't want to do them here because it's overkill. But what did we do in this video? I showed you how Nemesis X, the Great Pyramid, is the construct. The construct is made of timelines. Those timelines keep showing us forward and backward in time. Nemesis X visitations. So, the interior arrangements of the Great Pyramid are screaming at us in the language of calendars, conveyed to us from 5,000 years ago in feet and inches. How is that possible? Well, we're not done. We're not done. Let me move even further. I got some more stuff. Man, I called 3 hours, didn't I? And we're still not done. I did call 3-hour video. So I'm going to share this page with you right here. We've already talked about the inside of the pyramid. So let's look at the outside of the pyramid. Follow these facts, because the exterior of the construct is self-referencing with the interior. The present height of construction is 5,448 inches without a capstone. This is 454 feet. This 5,448 inches is exactly 552 inches under 6,000. You can't make this up. I didn't make the Great Pyramid 5,448 inches tall. Other people have measured it that. You can't make this up. And that happens to be 552 inches below 6,000. So this 48-inch ceiling height parallels the width of the lowest chamber ceiling, the subterranean chamber ceiling width of 552 inches. As above, so below. The longest vertical exterior distance added to the longest interior sloping distance, 554 vertical inches with 4,146 sloping inches. The two longest distances inside and outside the Great Pyramid, subtract them and you get 3,201. I mean, you get 1,302. 1,302 inches. But 1,302 inches times phi, 1.618, is 2,106. 2,106.6. Remember, the chief cornerstone's the biggest stone. The exterior levels and courses of blocks number at 203 levels of masonry. The capstone will make the 204th. Remember, the king's chamber is 204 inches wide. The queen's chamber is 204 inches wide. The central axis of the entire Great Pyramid is 204 inches away from the axis to the subterranean pit. The capstone will make the 204th. This parallels the exterior sloping angles of the apothem at 51 degrees, all four adding up to 204 degrees. This 204 is also referenced internally as the distance in inches between the great step central axis high in the structure and the well pit. Okay, I already said that. As above, so below. It's crazy. From the construct's foundation, which is beginning, upward, along the distance of the apothem, the sloping distance is exactly 612.01 feet. Feet, guys. It's perfect in feet. This measure accounts for the capstone to be in place. 612 feet is exactly 7,344 inches. Where have my archaics veterans seen that number? It's the number for Exodus 3 times over. 2448 plus 2448 plus 2448 is the number for Exodus from the construct. 612 feet is exactly 7,344 inches, years of the construct from beginning to end. This 7,344 years is well documented in archaics. It is 5239 BC to 2106 AD. I'm about to show charts on all this. The external geometry and measurements of the Great Pyramid confirm the interior measured timelines. These internal measurements demonstrate that a timeline begins in 1902. The most important feature of the structure internally confirmed this again in the King's Chamber measurements of 412 inches long, King's Chamber, 204 inches wide, 230 inches tall, and 330 inches long on the great slab floor leading up to the limestone, the big limestone block. This is 1,176 inches. 1,176 times phi is 1902. 1902 AD began the Great Pyramid course countdown. 203 levels of blocks to 2105 AD. That's right, guys. The Great Pyramid is 203 levels. Starting at 1902, counting those 203 levels, the interior arrangements of the Great Pyramid count down to 1902. 1902 begins the exterior final countdown. All 203 levels to the year 2105. 2106 is the 6,000th year. It is the return of the chief cornerstone. It's also Nemesis X final year in place. These match the 204 books of Ezra, which contain the in the apocryphal text, which contain divine information. We've talked about the 204 books of Ezra being symbols for the courses of the Great Pyramid. But here it is. You need to see. Some of you need to be reminded. Some of you need to see this because you've never seen it before. Come on now. Here you go. Man, it's been thundering the whole time I'm talking. It's steady thundering. Here's the Giza course countdown. Starts in 1902. 1902 is the bottom. It's the base. The base is the beginning. The interior arrangements arrive at 1902 in several ways, as I've shown in the past. 1902 begins 203 levels all the way up here to 2105 to the empty deal, which is 5,999 Anno Mundi. Okay, that's the 51 degrees times 4. This is the 7,344. You know what? Before we even see the chart, here it is right here. This is the apothegm, 612 feet, 612.0 feet. That's the apothegm. The apothegm is precisely 7,344 inches, paralleling the 7,344 years of this timeline. This is the archaic timeline, and it shows all the resets and systemic destructions throughout the human historical record, starting with the Nemesis Cataclysm, followed with the first appearance of Phoenix, which destroyed a 930-year-old civilization in 4309 BC, followed by the first appearance of the moon, 4039 BC, then the Adam and Eve reset in 3895 BC. There's 3890. Remember, you saw this 3895 BC because we're not done. Started the 1656 years of the pre-flood world. Here's the first appearance of Nemesis X, 3439 BC. Here's the Mayan long count began. Here is Nemesis X again in the pre-flood world. All these black spheres are Nemesis X, all throughout world history. Coming back in 2046 and 2106, all the red spheres are Phoenix. There's the Mayan long count, the Anunnaki nerve system, the cursed earth system. It's all here. This is the 7,344 years. It is 2448 plus 2448 plus 2448 years. It is the number of Exodus times 3. You got 3 shots in every run through the construct to make your escape. Here it is. It's all here, guys. This is why I get so irritated with the younger Dryas model, because they're trying to paint a picture that the only cataclysm we need to worry about in the ancient world was the one that happened in the younger Dryas. And we don't even know if a cataclysm even happened back then, but it doesn't even matter because it's 8,000 years before the human historical record was even done. If we just go by the human historical record, traditional, mythological, and textual records, this is what you get. This is what you get. This is what my channel is, 1,300 videos and a dozen published books. This is what you get. We have an abundance of information to show the Nemesis X and Phoenix timelines. Now we have the Great Pyramid showing us the exact same thing. This is what you get. That's the 7,300. The exterior of the structure shows that everything is contained in 7,344 years. That's what that measurement shows. That measurement of 612 feet tells us that there are 7,344 year timeline from the beginning, which is the base of the Great Pyramid, to the end, from the Alpha to Omega. All the timelines recorded inside the Great Pyramid fit into a construct of 7,344 years. This is it. This is it right here. Apothem. 7,344 inch apothem right here. See the number 864, everything. Foundation of time number. Yeah, guys, you just can't make this shit up. All right. So I'm going to show you this too. This is profound, super profound. How do you process something like this? Look, maybe I can blow this up. So the King's Chamber Great Slab floor is 534 inches, years to the central axis of the construct, plus 3,361 inches, which is the full length all the way to the floor joint of the descending passage. Add them together. 534 plus 3,361 is 3,895. The structure identifies year one of the 6,000 years to 2106 AD. I've shown this on many charts. Yeah, it's so simple because the 3,360 inch ascending passage has an unequal ending on the great step face as well, and it's in variance of 1 inch. Sir Flinders Petrie noticed that on one side it's 3,361, on another it's 3,360. It's the same thing as the descending, except that one had 3 measurements. Each measurement off by 6 inches, but not so with the ascending passage. The ascending passage, the variance was 1 inch, but the number provided is 3,895. This means where the passage axis conjunct is located is the intersect between 2 timelines. The descending passage and the ascending passage mark 2 separate timelines, 2 separate planes where timelines are occurring. They often intersect and they often end each other, but they're 2 separate planes operating here. It is an artificial boundary, a placeholder. But how? How did scientists and engineers in the ancient past know that in the future their descendants would be measuring time under a new Anno Domini system? The dates I've been providing you guys are Anno Domini, and they still match. When we use BC dates, they're Anno Domini. You understand? 3895 BC is a Anno Domini date. It's under the Gregorian system. It's 3895 BC. But when you add the foundation of time number of 534 to the full distance of the ascending passage, you get 3895. How did they know? There's no coincidence here. With all the self-referencing and other dimensions of arithmetic, cross-calendrical parallels, with all the Phoenix numbers that are in the pyramid, with all of this in the pyramid, with the physics constants that I didn't even really talk about, I just mentioned a bunch of them at the beginning of the video, how did they know that we were going to go through the Great Pyramid and look at it in feet and inches and in BC, Gregorian, and Anno Mundi reckoning? Because it speaks to us in all 3 and synthesizes them absolutely perfectly, and you can't do this with the metric system. How did I know this? In 1890s, books were published where they literally said the Great Pyramid speaks in inches. In the 1890s, men knew. They were led by intuition, even though they didn't have an accurate chronology. And in my previous Great Pyramid videos, I cite those men. I show you their books. I hold their books up and I show you, man, these men had it. They said the Great Pyramid is divine and it speaks to us in inches. Inches are descendants of the megalithic yard. But I'm going even further than that. How did scientists and engineers in the ancient past know that in the future their descendants would be measuring time under a new Anno Domini system and measuring distance using inches and feet? How did they know? It doesn't even make sense unless unless time is cyclical and we keep thinking our ancestors built this structure when actually we did. It's technologically advanced. It requires modern machinery. We've seen the saw cuts on there. We've seen the drill bore. We've seen the striations. We know it's made of geopolymers. All the research is out there to conclude that the Great Pyramid was built by a technologically advanced civilization. But the problem is we keep trying to assume that that technologically advanced civilization was way back in the ancient past. But was it? When the standards of measurement were used on the modern reckoning, inches and feet, did we build a structure on one of these timelines in order to preserve for our posterity when they cycled back through the same timeline? They would be able to decode all this so they would figure out a way. Is this the greatest escape room ever? Because that's what it's telling me. It's telling me that, hey, man, look at me. I'm right here through the rise and fall of all these empires, cultures, races have come and gone, systemic resets, world destructions. Look at me. I'm still here and I'm still showing you everything you need to know. Study my insides, confirm it with my exterior, synthesize the two bodies of information. And when you do, it's all in feet and inches. Feet and inches are modern provenance. We did this. Are we on a loop? Did we build the Great Pyramid? Did we build it? A technologically advanced civilization of humans. Did we build it in a future that hasn't yet happened, but in a past that we can't remember because we're too far along the cycle? It's too far back. So, what did we do to fill the gap? We invented bullshit the Egyptians built, and they built them for pharaohs. We invented everything in the world to explain its presence as we're floating through this whole cycle of timelines back toward an event. We're heading toward a systemic reset. But on the other side of that reset, are did we build? Are we going to build it again? Is this something we keep doing? Therefore, we know the knowledge. Nothing makes sense here. An AI or a very sophisticated architectural computer program must have been employed in order to get this mathematical cohesiveness. It wasn't done using any tools that we think primitive people had. It was done by a society just like us. So somewhere there is a break. There's a break in timelines where we build the very thing that we thousands of years later study. It's an enigma and we try to figure it out. And we always attribute it to everything else. But in the very beginning, it was always us. It wouldn't surprise me at all to find out that somebody in my community can actually put all this together and then turn around and say, damn, Jason, you're right. Because according to all this, we actually built the Great Pyramid in the year 2070. And it's not even really there yet. And that we're on a loop, that we're on some type of broken simulation, and that the key to unbreaking it is that structure itself. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. But I do know this. We have got two things to show you real quick. Oh man, come on. If you were to go through all the measurements in the Great Pyramid, I mean, they basically produce this over again. This is a linear projection based off many of the measurements that are in the Great Pyramid. There's 3895 BC right there. 3895 BC. Phoenix, Genesis reset began, pre-flood world. Year one starts dark ages of 456 years. At the end of that dark age period, men were still recuperating with damn. Nemesis X appeared. Nemesis X appeared in 3439 BC. 3439 BC, Nemesis X appeared. But this time, when the construct opened, Enoch came with benefactors and they built civilization, and civilization became technologically advanced for 1200 years. And during this advancement period, we built the Great Pyramid. And then the Great Flood happened right here in 2239 BC and started this huge yellow sphere right here. The Great Flood ended everything in the 1200th year. 1200 years is 432,000 turnings of the stars. This is the ancient day count star system. Here's 2760 years right here. The Great Typhon Flood, all the way to the start of the Dark Ages with the return of Nemesis X, 522. That means 522 for us is the exact same thing that 3439 BC was for the people before the flood. This whole entire cycle is an absolute mirror to what happened here in the Dark Ages, which began 1200 years of advancement. Right here. It's insane. It's insane, guys. It's insane. So the final thing I'm going to show you, and I know this, I got coffee. I got all kinds of shit going through me right now. I got to use the bathroom. Well, I'm going to show you this because it's relevant. I didn't want to talk about the ancient Egyptian religion, the gate of Rostal, how the souls flow through the kingdom of seeker and darkness, seeking the gate. The Great Pyramid and the Giza complex was anciently called Rostal. So, you know what? I don't want to go through all that. I've done that many times in previous presentations, but I want to share with you what the Hopi believed, because the ancient Hopi Indians, you know, you've heard of the Hopi prophecies. But the ancient Hopi Indians, they believed in a place that looked like this divine mountain. And there was a secret entrance in this divine mountain. But once you got inside this divine mountain, there was a God. But that God, the God himself, was a portal. This mountain here looks like it's got casing stones, and it looks like the entrance is pretty high up on the structure. But what's so interesting is that the Hopi they're separated into clans, and the Hopi tribe clan that maintained this petroglyph and they protected the cave where this petroglyph was found, they're called the Deep Well Clan. That's the name. The Hopi were called the Deep Well Clan. The village where this glyph is found in northwestern America is called Winema. When the Hopi were asked, what does your village mean, Winema, where this glyph is protected by the Hopi? They told them that the name Winema, the name of their village, literally means the way home. I'm going to end my presentation with that, guys. I got to piss. But I'm telling you now, we 100%, we are living in a simulation. We are living in a mathematical, doesn't mean it's a bad place, but we're living in a mathematical construct. The Great Pyramid is a three-dimensional model of that construct in timelines and calendars. We can go deeper into this later, but right now I got to terminate this. I got to use the bathroom bad. But that's my presentation, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. But there's nothing here that makes sense. It is entirely too perfect. It's all verifiable. It's beyond our ken. It's beyond our understanding. And I'm open to any theories in the comments. Whatever theories you got in the comments, maybe you'll trigger something in me, and I'll take off. But we started old school, so we're going to end old school. Love you guys.